All right. We'll call to order the June 18, 2019 City Council. Clerk will call the roll and record the attendance.
Anderson Burgos.
Here.
Hartley.
Here.
Bresnahan.
Here.
Leahy.
Present.
LeBrun Martinez.
Here.
Lisi. McGee. McGivern.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Valentine.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
City of Hoyoke.
City Council.
First item on the agenda is the public hearing, a petition for a pole and wire location from the Gas Electric for Waldo Street.
Check, check. Good evening, council members. Vinnie O'Connell, Holyoke Gas and Electric Division. We're looking to install a new pole on Waldo Street. The residents within that area have been notified, and we're looking to relocate one pole approximately 50 feet north of its present location.
Any questions for Gas and Electric on the pole?
Make a motion to approve it.
Motion is to approve the new pole and the location. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you. Good evening.
Laid on the table was from the auditor. It was the updated budget for fiscal year 2020. Stay on the table. Next is public comment. We have 8 people signed up. When you hear your name called, please leave your, place your name and your address, and it'll be a minute and a half. I'll give you the sign for a minute, and then from there, we'll go. Any questions? First is a Karina Riley at 235 Hillside Ave.
Correct.
Corinne?
Hi, my name is Karina, and I just wanted to speak on the group home that's opening up on Yale Street. I've been a Holyoke resident for the past 20 years. I've been a psychiatric nurse for the past 12 years, and I've worked in both inpatient and community settings. And I want to offer my opinion that I think that group homes are amazing and a much better setting for people to gain the knowledge and skills that they need as they work towards their recovery. The group home that's opening on Yale Street will be serving people that are part of a very marginalized population and one that is deserving of a safe and beautiful environment to work on their recovery. The response from our community to this group home really saddens me, and I, for one, want them to feel welcome in our city. And I would like to add that I think a moratorium would only make it more difficult for people in our community to access the care that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Next is a Jessica Bloom from 8 Liberty Street.
I'm way too short for this. Hi there. I'm also here to speak in favor of the new group home going in on Yale Street. I live in Ward 7. I love being a Holyoke resident. I'm just a few blocks away from the house, actually. I'm also a member of the LGBTQ community who's sober and in long-term mental health recovery. I'm somebody who programs like this are basically designed for. I wish there had been something like this, particularly in sort of such a homey and kind neighborhood as the one I currently live in. But programs similar to this one are honestly what saved my life. I currently manage a program for a local health and human services agency doing peer support and helping other folks with mental health issues. But 15, 20 years ago, I was on disability and unable to work and frankly unable to leave my house that often. So I'm such a believer in programs like this because I'm the kind of person whose lives they change. And again, like, I love my community here and I want to be a place that welcomes people to have the kind of healing that I've gotten to experience in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ashley Grant, 57 Suffolk Street.
Good afternoon or good evening. I'm Ashley Grant. I'm the legal director at the Massachusetts Fair Housing Center. We are here in Holyoke. We've been here for 30 years, and we've been following this issue closely. And it raised a lot of concerns for us because when a city tries to prevent the entrance of a group home into a community, courts have actually found that that violates the Federal Fair Housing Act. The Federal Fair Housing Act was amended in 1988 to protect people with disabilities, and that includes people who are in recovery from substance use disorder as well as people with mental health issues. So the act really protects group homes and allows them to enter into communities recognizing the discrimination and stigma that folks who have a disability face and the importance of these services for those folks. We also have found as an organization in helping group homes in the past enter into communities that the fears that people have about what's going to happen when that group home enters into the community are often unfounded. And this is supported by a lot of studies that, in fact, crime does not increase when a group home enters, and property values do not drop when a group home enters. So I hope that folks can keep in mind what the Fair Housing Act says and the discrimination that it prohibits, and also keep in mind the amazing comments that we've already heard from people about what an important impact these group homes can have on people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Johanna Hammer, 1 Magnolia.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to address this issue. I am a resident of Holyoke. I am a licensed clinical social worker for the past 20 years. I worked for many years in a group home that most of the neighbors had no idea was actually in existence and in operation. I also lived in a community with a group home and again, experienced no detrimental effects. And what I will say as a clinical social worker working with adolescents who are at risk, there is a crisis currently in the state of Massachusetts for treatment, and especially effective and compassionate treatment. We have a lot of, kids are getting shipped further and further away to receive the care that they need. They're unable to, they're separated from their families, they're separated from their communities, and we know that the outcomes are dire. We have a very high suicide rate. And again, very high rates of substance abuse, particularly in the LGBTQ community, because of the impacts of homophobia, the impacts of homelessness resulting from family rejection, resulting from peer bullying, all sorts of issues. And again, having a community that will welcome and support our youth, that is a big, important thing to me. I didn't say that very articulately, but I think I want Holyoke to be that place. I want Holyoke to be the place that will open its arms and will support our youth. That's
No, you still have time.
okay. No, that's okay. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
No, not you. It's a goal, not you.
Next is Henry, 1 Magnolia Ave, also.
I would like to speak about the group home that's, people always deserve health and care and stuff that they need to be successful in today's society. And, homophobia and other discrimination is detrimental to the health of LGBTQ, kids, and I think people should move on from the fear of new things and come open arms with compassion. And it's good for the evolution of humankind to have things like this, because then everyone can be functional and working well in today's society.
Next is Stephen Rosenbush, 1155 Northampton Street.
Hi, I'm back again. My name is Stephen Rosenbush. I'm the owner and curator of what used to be called the Skinner Estate. on Northampton Street. I have had a contractor at my house for the last 5 weeks, and we are trying to decide whether I renovate or vacate. And at this point, my contractor, who is from Bay Point, Long Island, cannot believe what is going on in the city. And I'm not talking about the group home, I'm talking about the fact that there is a dire and obvious lack of effective leadership in the city. There is no long-term planning. I would encourage the city council, whether it's in the charter or not, to fill in the gap. If the administration doesn't provide long-term plans, then you do it. Because the fact of the matter is, the only planning I see long-term is done by the school administrator, Mr. Zreich, and I'm outraged. My friend is outraged. Why are we allowing, I'll be done in a moment, why are we allowing someone who's going to leave the city in a half dozen years to set priorities for us and long-term plans? If this bond goes through, I'm an investor, this bond goes through, we will not have money for the next 30 years for the other schools to pave our streets, to pave the sidewalks. Mr. Lynch, walk around your ward and see the crummy condition of the
Stephen, your time
sidewalks.
is up.
You
That's
should
1:30.
be ashamed.
Stephen, your time is up. Thank you. Next is Scott, can't read the last name, 60 Cleveland.
Hello, I'm Scott D. Fleece, 60 Cleveland Street. And so, I think my first comment is, there's a lot of discussion. This is a group home, so I want to take issue with that. I don't believe it's a group home. I think it's a 16-bed medical facility delivering drugs and servicing that community. It's a medical facility. But I want to talk about what the truth here is. And I think the truth here is that these big pharma companies created a massive problem in our state. And now we're trying to solve the problem. And the question before us, I believe, is how that problem is solved, and is it fair? And I think if the problem is solved in the gateway cities to the exclusion of other communities, I don't believe that's fair. I think Holyoke should manage its fair share of the problem, and it should not have a disproportionate share. I think these people should be treated. I think it is a good mission. That's not the question. I think the question is, should it be the burden of one particular city, or it should be spread through the Commonwealth? So I think we should have proper zoning in place when these facilities come in. I don't think the Dover Amendment should be an opportunity for people to get around the local zoning. And if the local zoning is in place and the burden is shared, I think it's fair and I think it's the right mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Last is Paige Henry of 63 Belvedere Ave.
Hello, thank you for having this public comment. My name is Paige. I'm a homeowner. I live at 63 Belvedere Ave. I love Holyoke. I want to echo so many things that these wonderful people in my community have said. I don't think that having a welcoming space in a residential atmosphere is a burden on the community, as some people believe. I think that this is a desperately needed resource, and that the people who would be lucky enough to have that resource in our community would bring a lot to the community. I have a lot of friends and people that I know who would really benefit from something like this. And as some people have said that LGBTQ people have a disproportionately difficult time, in society and getting the resources that they need. And I've just been really disheartened by a lot of the misinformation I've heard going around about this. And I hope that you will deliberate on this issue with compassion and understand that it is not a burden. It is something that is our community members are already here and they need support, and thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor McGee?
Yep.
Is that the last one?
Yeah.
A motion to receive item number 3, refer to Committee on Finance.
That was the last one, Councilor Leahy.
I thought I had the floor.
Yeah, you do.
All right, so seeing there's all these wonderful people in the audience tonight, maybe we should skip to a Public Service Committee. Item number, what's the item number here? 10G.
Motion is suspend the rules, go out of order to 10G. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 10G, Committee on Public Service was referred in order that the state, Representative Vega and Humison, request a moratorium on group homes in the city of Holyoke and request group homes be evenly placed throughout the Commonwealth, or that's been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, under discussion, we had a fantastic meeting the other night. A lot of people came down. I'll certainly turn it over to Councilor President McGee momentarily as the maker of the order. Councilor Vega, State Rep Vega, used to be Councilor Vega, now he's State Rep. Rep Vega came down and he kind of explained to us kind of what's happening down on the Boston side. We, the City Council, made it clear that we think that it should be a broad span. If something's going to happen, it should be partaken in 351 cities and towns. I understand exactly what a lot of these people are saying today. They're looking at it two different ways. I'm looking at the macro picture, and a lot of people are looking at the micro picture. Now, the micro picture is we have a population that needs help. I get that. I want to help people. But looking at the macro level, rather, is we have a lot of other communities that could be helping us as well. It just seems like the city of Holyoke is always, we have this. This Dover Amendment I don't think is fair. And the reason I don't think it's fair is because I think it's not used well. I think it's used in different circumstances. I, too, like the gentleman spoke before, I don't think this is a group home. I think it's a medical facility. And I don't think a medical facility belongs in a residential neighborhood. Now, does a group home? Maybe. However, a medical facility with 16 beds, I don't think that should fit in any residential neighborhood. And I don't think that's doing a service for the people who are going there as well. It's a medical facility, and they need tender, loving care. That's what they need. So I'll turn it over to you as the maker of the order.
Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. So I just wanted to add to what Councilor Leahy said as chair. So I was on that committee, and I think that for the most part, what I heard that evening was about 85% of the people that came down recognized that group home programs are valued and compassionate care for people in recovery, whether it's from substance abuse or mental health issues. Nobody in the room really, or I should say that 85% of the people agree that group homes in residential neighborhoods can provide quality care for people in recovery. I think the issue at hand here is, number one, as we heard mentioned already, the gateway communities are being disproportionately used as the recipients of group home programs, and what that does, not about the program, but about the way that we get stripped of those tax dollars because the group homes become nonprofit entities, and therefore the tax on the property kind of disappears from our tax base, and we are one of the poorest cities in the Commonwealth, and so we do struggle to make ends meet. I also think that everyone in the room that evening understood that this is an issue that is regulated and controlled at the state level, and that's because of the Dover Act. Now, there is a question, and I filed an order as a follow-up to get some clarity about whether or not this sort of facility that may be providing some sort of clinical care qualifies as an educational facility, which precludes and preempts the city, the municipality, from regulating these entities, right? So it's state licensed currently and state regulated. The city doesn't have any control over the issue. But we should look into whether or not this particular program meets the definition of educational program under the Dover Act that, again, preempts and precludes the city's ability to regulate this program. I think that most of the people in the audience recognize it's a state-level issue, and we're really putting a lot of pressure on State Rep Vega, mostly to ensure that these group homes, when they come in and with their nonprofit status take our property tax dollars away from us, that's being evenly distributed throughout the Commonwealth. Or if that's not the case, and we are going to continue to, with open arms, welcome group homes as we have been, and other nonprofit type of, what do I want to say, sorry. We do more than our quote-unquote fair share with 40B in providing low and affordable housing units compared to our other neighboring communities. So we don't see the work and resources that we invest into providing space and care for these sorts of facilities return to us. We're never compensated for the tax dollars that we use to provide trash removal, to just provide a whole host of city services that these and other facilities enjoy. So if that's, if we're going to continue to be the recipients of such programs, then we need to make sure that local aid formula is also compensating the city of Holyoke and other gateway communities that seem to be gaining at a higher rate these sort of facilities. And I think that's a fair thing to ask for, that if we are doing, again, more than our quote-unquote fair share in terms of servicing these sorts of facilities, that the state is then recognizing that investment that we're making and then compensating and returning us with local aid dollars from the state to continue to move forward in that way. There was one other thing that I wanted to say, but I'm losing it. Mostly, I do want to just reiterate the point that I think most people are there's no contention about the group home and the type of care that they're giving and the population that they're servicing. I think it's more about the tax dollars, and it's about whether or not the group home as it's currently configured on Yale Street actually meets the educational definition that precludes the city from regulating the facility in any way. So to me, that's the sum of what's at hand here. Thank you.
Councilor Valentin.
Thank you. First, I want to thank everyone that came to the mic and shared their opinions and their concerns, and a special thanks to, is it Henry? To Henry, because very brave of him to come to the microphone. When I was that age, I would not have been close to a microphone in any way, shape, or form. So, Henry, I hope someday soon, when you're old enough, maybe you can be inside these chambers instead of outside of them. I want to comment on the overall conversation that's been going on regarding this facility. I need to say that every time I drive by those blue signs that say no on Yale, I'm quite disappointed and disheartened by the narrative that has taken place in our city regarding this. In the year 2000, I opened a substance abuse residential program that's located at 130 Pine Street in Holyoke. It's called Arbor House. I started that program from scratch with no staff, no clients, no furniture. And 5 years later, when I left there to go run the psychiatric unit at the Ludlow Jail, 2,000 patients had gone through there, including people who actually work in nonprofits in Holyoke right now. And that is the place, that is the treatment program where they actually got sober in. So that's quite a rewarding experience when I think about my time here in Holyoke. But I use that as an example that many people didn't even know that there was a 25-bed substance abuse residential program at 130 Pine Street. It's a 3-story brick building. It's 24 hours staffed. And there were 25 beds where there was a nurse that was on staff, where medications were being distributed. where case management was happening, where one-on-one meetings were happening, where in-house AA meetings were happening, where Tim Purrington would actually come as a representative of Tapestry, and there was on-site HIV testing happening. All of this was happening, and many folks on Pine Street didn't even know that this 25-bed residential program was there and is still there. It's now run by Phoenix Corporation. When I was there, it was run by Cooley Dickinson Hospital, fully funded by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. And so it was a free service for folks. There was no, health insurance. People would come from detox and shelters, stay there about 45 days, and then go to halfway houses or recovery homes, which are usually 6 months long. And so I use that as an example of something that was positive, that was a good scenario of something that was successful, and as far as I know, continues to be. So tonight, I know that this is about the moratorium that we're asking our state folks to look at, and I want to say on the record that I will be voting against any type of moratorium on this. I will never, as long as I'm here, which will be until December, I will never vote for anything that can be perceived as being an impediment for folks that are looking to receive service, that are looking to receive treatment. I have the utmost respect for people that are in recovery or that need to be in recovery and need the resources available to them. If that so happens to be a home at 11 Yale Street, then that is what I want to support. So I will be voting against the moratorium, and we'll continue to listen to the conversations that are taking place, and hopefully we can all be in a place at some point soon where the conversations that we're having as a group and as a community can change from those people to folks that need help. Thank you.
Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this is going to turn into like we don't support anybody and you know that sort of thing. The bottom line, folks, is that the tax rate has gone up through the roof. I mean, the property taxes have gone up. The CPA matching tax fund that many of us voted for, I did not, is now being dropped down to 11 cents a dollar that we put in. So we're paying $1 into the CPA, we're getting 11 cents back from the government. I imagine eventually that's just gonna go away completely, because when the governor started, Cellucci, back in 2002 or however it was $1 for $1. So every year, that dollar goes lower and lower and lower and lower, and now we're into that program for 5 years. We have a multitude of these types of homes, and that's great. That's great. I mean, you know, Providence Hospital, I think there's somewhere between 35 and 45 of these type of homes, and you don't know where they are. I've been to the Arbor House when I was the health director. I was there all the time because there was a guy, buddy of mine that ran it, Dan, he was a great guy, and nobody knew it, but I mean, you got it on 131 Pine Street. Across the street, there was 2 burnt out houses, and then there was a brick building that was used for storage next door to it. So it's not quite the same neighborhood per se as the Yale Street. And I think all it comes down to is that had there been a little bit more transparency, had the group come to, maybe they did, because I'm hearing that perhaps there was some sort of communications with the mayor and Marcos Marrero, but had they had some sort of open forum with the neighborhoods, so everybody's fear went away. What type of program is this? Is this guys getting out of early release? Is this, what's going on here? That's all. Every time a group home comes into the city of Holyoke, it's always the same gripe. They basically buy the house, unbeknownst to any of the neighbors, and it just happens. It just happens. There's 2 houses down from my mother's house. The city of Holyoke picks up the trash and we don't get anything for it. But, you know, those are the things that could be discussed. Have an open, transparent conversation with the neighborhood. Have it down at Ian White School. Have it at Park Slope Park. And say, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a group home at 16 Yale Street. We're losing double digits in taxes, mind you. And I don't know that the organization that putting it there is a nonprofit. I would have to assume that it is a full profit organization that's putting the group home there. Again, we're all for it. The city of Holyoke has done over and beyond the helping communities out. We have. But when you all drive home tonight, go down on the road that doesn't, Heritage Park, that's completely destroyed. Go down Commercial Street, come back around, and look at the properties down that you're gonna drive by. You're gonna see nonprofits, you're gonna see blinking lights, you're gonna see people begging for change on the corner. All of which is fine, But the bottom line is that we don't have the money to support what we need to support. We're down firefighters. We're down police. We have cruisers that are beat up. We have fire trucks that are beat up. And where do we think this money's going to come from? And I think that's kind of the gripe that some of the folks have. And again, had there been more of an open dialogue with the folks that live on Yale Street in the neighborhood, this probably wouldn't be high, because all these fears, they don't know what's going there. I mean, I don't know what's going there, to be perfectly honest. I just don't. The signs on people's lawns, I say God bless America. I think that's a wonderful thing. You can put whatever sign you want on your lines. I don't have a problem with that. Offensive, non-offensive, it is what it is. That's why we live in America, so we can do that sort of thing. But the bottom line is that if we had open discussion, dialogue, had that person that is bringing that home here, that organization, contacted every single city councilor, so when we get the calls, when we get the emails, when we see somebody at the local grocery store in Holyoke, we can be like, hey, you know what? It's gonna be okay. This is what they're doing here. Maybe they're gonna do a pilot program, pay in lieu of taxes, so it's just not a whole freebie. All those sort of things. So anyone listening or anyone that wants to get a group home, try that next time. Whoever the city councilors are, maybe reach out to all of them and say, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'd like to buy a home in Holyoke, and these are my intentions. Can you let your constituents know, so they're not up in arms, so they're not putting signs on their property so people may or may not feel discriminated against? I think that's just a better way to go about having these types of homes in Holyoke. And again, we have many of them. We have many nonprofits right outside this building. So for anyone to think that we're not doing our fair share, couldn't be farther from the truth. We've been doing our fair share for 30 years plus. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
I'm going to be supporting a moratorium until it's proven to me, and these are all state licensed facilities, right, that Holyoke is not getting a disproportionate share of these homes in our community. I realize the value of my brother and sister-in-law have had a group home in Rhode Island for between their in-laws and their parents for over 50 years. And I'm quite familiar with the good and what it can bring to a community and the effect. But I suspect, and I really feel strongly, I want to know that Holyoke is not being dumped on. We're not being unfairly burdened. And it's not, to me, not a matter about getting additional state aid. I don't want additional money coming into Holyoke if other communities are not doing their fair share as well. And that's my big concern.
Anyone else? Councilor Lisi.
Thanks. For the record, I just want to note that I spoke to the assessor about some of the information that's traveling around. And so I believe that the group home on Yale Street is the 10th in the city of Holyoke. So perhaps not, the larger numbers that I've heard floating around, but 10. And I do also want to state for the record, after talking to the assessor, that most nonprofits don't own their own property. And so nonprofits that are being conducted as businesses and paying rent in another person's piece of property are all still paying taxes. So there's only a handful of nonprofits that actually own the property. And I think when you go through the list, it's like the Diocese of Springfield, churches. One of the largest nonprofits that's a land-owning entity. The Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA. And then the Holyoke Housing Authority is another nonprofit. The Housing Authority is a quasi-municipal entity, so how do we tax ourselves? I don't think that there's a lot of nonprofits that aren't doing their fair share, but I do think that vis-a-vis the other communities in the Commonwealth, Holyoke is doing a lot of compassionate care for a lot of different populations. And I do think that we should be, as I said earlier, compensated for the investment that we're making. Thank you.
Anyone further? Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The irony of the discussion this evening is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, once again, doesn't recognize what a gateway community really is, or should I say they know what a gateway community is because they abuse gateway communities over and over again. There is no question that this program is needed. There's no question that this program, well, there's always a question it could be well-run, but if well-run, will blend in and will be fine. But most people don't understand is taxing schemes aren't the choice of a local community. The Commonwealth dictates the taxing scheme that we use. They don't give us sales tax from the Holyoke Mall. They give us a little portion of a meals tax if we so choose, a little portion of hotel tax. They don't give us any income tax whatsoever. That's where the bulk of your taxes come out of your wallet. They look at communities and say, you survive on property tax, the most detrimental, most difficult tax to be fair about. It's impossible. And then they turn around, and I understand what Councilor Lisi's saying about group homes, and understand what about the housing authority, because Holyoke doesn't create poverty, Holyoke services poverty. And with that, we do a pretty good job of taking care of people who need housing. With that comes the need for services. This type of service comes with not just poverty, but with the opioid crisis itself, and again, the need that is out there. But take this, for example. Homeless family shelters, CHD, Oak, Beach, and Sargent Street. 55 families and about 26 units. Same program, down Sargent Street at 6 or 7 blocks, an additional block of, I believe it's 6 or 7 units with about 13 or 15 families. CHD on Walnut Street, 2 blocks away from that, another building a little bit smaller with about 8 families. Now, here's the real kicker. You go into Oak Street at any given day, families are coming from as far away as Boston. Commonwealth understands gateway communities. They can get away with taking what they don't want in Boston and give it to the gateway communities. It's not just Holyoke. It's Lawrence, it's Lowell, it's Springfield. It's saturation that makes no sense because Councilor President is right. Our dollars, the services that we want to provide to the entire community, our dollars are going away. No one mentioned hospitals. Providence Hospital is in tremendous history in the city of Holyoke. Runs a BHN now, which services a lot of people with substance abuse issues. Does it incredible, more better than any hospital in Western Mass. Think of the property that they own. Our own Holyoke Medical Center, we know the property that they own as they expand. Bay State Community bought a building up off of Balboa Road, was known as the Wang Manufacturing Building, a manufacturing company that was one of the first manufacturers that we got from the eastern part of the state that was going to save Western Mass. No, not only do they run a lab out of there and pay no taxes to the city of Holyoke, they have 80 to 100 cars that they use for couriering every day that are parked in that parking lot, not registered in Holyoke. Excise tax goes somewhere else. Saturation is the message we're trying to get to Representative Vega and Senator Humminson and to the state legislature. They need a master plan of how to handle this crisis, of how to handle nonprofits, and if they're going to force communities to survive on property tax, they better well look at it and say, how's that going to work when we keep taking property taxes off the rolls? There's something wrong, and it's not in Holyoke. It's not the needs of these people. It's not the programs. It's the saturation into gateway communities that the Commonwealth needs to wake up and understand it a lot better and do a better job of saying everyone shares the burden of paying for the services of poverty, the needs of poverty, bedroom communities included. Thank you.
Anyone further? Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Thank you. So anybody that knows me knows I've been sober going over 18 years. And I'll tell you this much, I've been blessed because I have a loving community and a loving family who supported me through my struggles. I had somewhere to go, and anyone that asked me, because I've heard it all day about being compassionate, anyone that knows me knows I'm a very compassionate person. But what we have to do is realize that compassion has a two-way street, you know? You have compassionate for these people that need help, but then there's compassionate in our community that we need to balance our taxes. This is a very difficult situation right now, and I'm stuck. I'm in the middle. I really am, because like I said, I have a very compassionate heart, but I love this city with all my heart as well. And anyone that knows me knows I'm struggling with this right now. This is a very hard thing to go through. And I don't know which way I'm voting, but I'll tell you right now, I'm thinking heavily. And we'll just wish for the best. Thank you.
Anyone further? Just to, because I filed the order, and to be clear what's going on here, I think all the counselors made their points correctly. With regards to the meeting that took place, no one spoke ill will about those in need. Actually, they actually said, and I think every counselor said, we are here to support anyone who is in need. That's our job. The real issue is trying to figure out how to deal with things coming off the tax rolls, while at the same time trying to put schools and everything else in, fixing streets. It has nothing to do with the program, just to deal with how to juggle everything. And I think Councilor Anderson Burgo said it correctly, is, you know, we are compassionate, but at the same time you have another side of the job. Here, the order wasn't really to put a moratorium. We know you can't put a moratorium on these things. Senator Vega sat there, not Senator, but State Rep Vega sat there. I spoke with Senator Humison. You can't put a moratorium on them. They said it as clear as day. What you can do is file orders to try and redefine what education means under the Dover Act. You can try and do other things to try and address the problem. Also, as Councilor Lisi pointed out, you can try and fight for the readjustment of a formula. Say if you have X number of homes coming in, then the state should compensate you to offset what they're taking from you. Police, fire, DPW, addressing those services. So that's what we're trying to do. Be really clear. No one in this chamber, no one from the side that came in to talk about their area was against servicing people. We've been doing it as a city for as long as I can remember as a kid. So to me, the order was designed to bring the state in, to have them understand that Holyoke is doing their fair share. There are communities around here that have no group homes. So that's not to pick on them, but you know, we got to take care of each other. So Councilor Senator Humison and Representative Vega said, you know, it's something they will check. They suggested certain things that they will try and do. We followed the orders in relation to what they suggested. Here it just says it's being complied with. They came in, they sat down, they talked to us, they gave us all the information that we needed to try and address it. We followed other orders in relation to what they suggested to do. Once again, no one suggested to take away services, to be not compassionate, to not care for people. That was never discussed. Our job is to take care of people. So there are other orders that are being filed with regards to what the senator and representative suggested we do. This is just being complied with because we took it up. We had the public talk about it. We were told what we can and cannot do by our state delegation. We're now going to move on to what else they suggested we do. I don't want anyone walking out of this chamber tonight being mad at each other. That's not what we do in Holyoke. So let's work together to fix this, but at the same time understand it's just being complied with. Anyone else? If no one else, the motion is that the order has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Just point of order, Mr. President.
Councilor Barton.
I don't want to make a motion with, because they're your orders and they're Councilor Lisi's orders, but there's 3 or 4 that are relevant to this issue. I thought perhaps you'd like to take them up at the package now and maybe
Send them to public service?
while
Motion to
everyone's here.
suspend the necessary rules to take up items number 33, 34, 35, and 50 as a package.
A second.
33, 34, 35, and what was the other one?
50.
So 33, 34, 35, and 50 take up as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
34, 35, and what? 33. I got 50.
33 is an order that Senator Humison and Representative Vega file legislation to redefine the scope and the meaning of education with regards to the Dover Amendment. Order that the legal department look into litigation opportunities to address the number of homes within the city. Order that the legal department work with surrounding city or towns to address group homes, specifically those that were referenced in the governor's press release for and was given to the Public Service Committee. And the last one is that the City Council urged the mayor to seek legal course of action to gain clarity about whether the program intended to run out of the MHA group home on Yale Street qualifies as an educational program under the Dover Act that precludes the city from regulating such entities. Those are the 4 motions to send to public service.
Public service, or do you want to just receive, adopt, and send to legal?
Receive, adopt, send to legal.
Receive,
Copy
adopt.
to the
Second.
mayor
Yep.
and to our state delegation, because some were for the state delegation.
Yep.
So receive, adopt, send to legal, mayor, state delegation.
Can I ask for clarification on something?
Counselor Valentin.
34, order that the legal department look into all litigation opportunities to address the number of group homes coming into the city. Can you just briefly explain what the purpose of that would be specifically?
That was to see, that in essence, that came up in the meeting with regards to whether or not the Dover Act is being complied with for educational purposes. So it's similar to 50, which would be Counselor Lisi's.
So these are all about asking the legal department to look into this. We're not, just for the public to know, because they don't, they
Yep.
just heard you read them quickly, but for the legal department to give some guidance
To give guidance on this.
in terms of next steps.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone further? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Anyone else? All right. So we are back to communications, which would be item number 3.
Motion to receive item 3, refer to Committee on Finance.
This
Second.
is from the auditor, Division of Local Services, revenue transfers to the finance. All those in favor? All those opposed? 4, so we're at petitions.
4, 5, and 6 as a package, please.
Motion is to suspend the rules, take up 4, 5, and 6 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 4 is for a special permit at 155 Elm Street. 5 is a special permit for 155 Elm Street. And 6 is a special permit for Northampton Street. All those in favor, so this would be.
DJR.
DGNR. All those in
Committee.
favor? All those opposed? President's report, one announcement. Counselor Tallman, for those who don't know, will be recognized and receiving the Human Relations Award by the Greater Holyoke Council on Human Understanding tomorrow, 5:15 at Summit View Banquet House. Congratulations, Counselor Tallman. Now, it does say from the title, former counselor, honored. Is there something you want to tell us, Counselor?
I think I'm sticking around for at least one more term, so.
But congratulations, that's an awesome award, and congratulations to
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's tomorrow, Hamels, 5:15, for everyone who might want to attend.
Mr. President, are you done with your report?
Yeah, anyone else?
No, I just wanted to, well, if somebody, I just wanted to make a motion to suspend for take one item out of order, but I don't want to do that until people had their little updates.
No one?
Get the air on over there?
Yeah, get some air in it.
Hey, Ryan, can you put the air on?
Is the air on?
Mr. President, could I just
Yeah.
make a motion to suspend and take late file E out of order, and I,
Second that. The blue line.
Motion to suspend the rules, take up late file E out of order. All those in favor? All those opposed?
and my motion, oh, well, if you want to read it, then I'll make a motion.
So here it's from Councilor Bartley. The City of Holyoke approved placing neighborhood watch signs throughout the city advertise HPT's emergency telephone 911, non-emergency tel line 322-6900, and text solve at 274-69. Refer to Holyoke Police Department to approve content, the mayor to fund the install.
Yeah, so it's make a motion to receive and adopt and then refer.
So motion is suspend the rules to
receive
do
and
final
refer.
action.
Yeah.
So is to receive, adopt,
And refer to
and
the
refer
aforementioned.
to
Am I-
DPW with copy to the mayor for,
Yeah, and to the police department to review the content of the signage. What Captain Moriarty's here, I said I would do that that night in a neighborhood watch meeting. And so while the captain's here, I just want to make sure he hears it, and then we can.
So it's to receive, adopt,
and refer.
Refer to HPD for review.
Yeah.
Copy to the mayor, and then to DPW.
DPW for fabrication of the signs.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Do you believe the police are here for something, or?
Auxiliary, item
Auxiliary,
21
yeah.
out of order?
We take item number
Second.
21 and 30, I believe.
21 and 30?
I think it's 30.
Oh, maybe
30,
finance? Auxiliary right there.
30, it
21.
seems like it's the same order.
The same order.
21 and 30.
Motion to take up 21 and 30. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed?
Motion to refer to Committee on Finance?
Motion is to refer to finance. Is there a
Just-
second? Nope. So, Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, just wondering if, I mean, this is something that we've been finding out that the auxiliary police haven't gotten their pay since, I believe, April. And I think there's something new about the way this is paid out of the fund that was happening before. You know, before we used to have the money coming in from the contractors, and then the city would pay, and then it would take months to get that money back, and actually the city wasn't getting the money from some of the contractors. I was wondering if we could just maybe suspend the rules and maybe have Captain Moriarty or somebody from the auxiliary police just sort of give us an update on what's actually going on about this situation tonight before we send it to committee.
Motion is suspend rules, allow the captain to come up and answer questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Can I
Captain
just
Hardy?
make a statement prior to that?
Counselor Leahy.
I spoke to legal today, and they indicated that this should go to ordinance. I have no problem listening to the good Captain Moriarty briefly.
Can you put a time limit on it?
That's right, briefly. But this should go to ordinance.
So do you want to have him answer a question, or legal's asking to go to ordinance?
More than happy to have him talk, but
Ordinance?
I think we vote to suspend and let him address.
Captain,
Right, yeah,
wanna
I'd
come
like
on
to,
up?
yeah.
Briefly.
Good evening, everyone. Captain Matt Moriarty, and I will keep it short, don't worry. Trying to put it into a tight little ball here. The police department for the road jobs used to be manually done by hand, pen and paper. We're trying to get ahead of the game and get into the 21st century, and we now have a system, it's computerized, it's DTS. It's a more transparent system run by Sergeant John Savini. Basically, all the jobs are entered, and basically how it runs is when the jobs go out, first people who have the first chance to pick this job are the full-timers. Then it goes to the reserves, and then it goes to the auxiliaries. Now, the auxiliaries, as we know, they're run by the Dietrichs, and they could retire this year, next year, 2 years down the road. And some people may not know that our auxiliary police department are definitely unsung heroes. They volunteer tons of their time, and probably a majority of our city events could not be held if it wasn't for their help. If there's any auxiliaries here, which I think it's that group, could you guys just stand up? There's a very small part of them. I just want to say thank you. Now that I've embarrassed you, you can sit down. You're good. But Ron Dietrich has been the chief for, I think it's either between 50 and 60 years. So they would take care of the billing. And as Councilor Tallman was explaining, some businesses don't pay them immediately. Now with the DTS system, we can alleviate the Dietrichs of this problem of the billing process and the fact of chasing down some of these companies to get the money. So we've run through the paperwork with the auditor, and I am kind of new at the world of this, like finance and what we need to do. So I apologize if a majority of you don't know about this coming up. We're going to be looking to create a separate, I believe it's called a revolving account. It's duplicate to our off-duty account, but it's specifically made for the auxiliaries because the auxiliaries cannot be treated as city employees. So if they were to work more than 20 hours, they would get benefits and everything else. So this way they are separate from us, and we have actually listed them in our database with our payroll as private vendors. So it eliminates any concerns of any of them being treated as employees if they do 20 or more hours. And in the long run, what we're hoping is it'll just smooth everything out. It's just we have this long process. Anything else? Any questions?
Counselor Dahlman.
Yeah, I'm just concerned because what I've heard is some of the auxiliary haven't been paid since like April, and people have bills to pay, and I don't know, is there any way around that we can get this taken care of within a couple of weeks or so? I mean, we send this to committee, we don't meet again until the first week in August, and then if it gets through ordinance or any finance and it goes to September, it could be another 4 or 5 months before anybody gets a paycheck. That's my concern.
Right.
Is there any way that we can get around that?
I'm unaware of that, or I'm not sure. It's kind of out of my league, but I can track that down through Kate McCoy and our auditor and legal also. That's why this kind of was rushed. As I said, I was late into the game here, ran around, got the signatures, and we were all on a learning curve here trying to get all this done as soon as possible. And I know I had to get to you guys and ladies, sorry, before the summer break. So we will look into that because we're well aware of it, and we are in constant communication with the auxiliaries to advise them of our step-by-step process.
I'm just saying, anything that the council can do if we have to get the meeting, I mean, the ordinance committee, I just feel it's like anybody that's trying to run a household and doesn't have the pay coming in, since, April, which is
Right.
3 months, April, May, June.
Once again, not knowing if this can be done, I will inquire with Kate McCoy to see if we can pay them out of our off-duty. Oh, hey.
The audit, yeah.
We have
Suspend
motion
the
is
rules, have the
suspend
auditor
rules,
speak.
allow the auditor to answer questions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
So they can't get paid through the city because one of the issues was that the union contract itself said that the auxiliary police could not be paid through the city, so they had that changed, so I feel comfortable with that. But they have to be paid out of the revolving fund because it's a separate entity and the city is not in the business of auxiliary services. So we need to keep that separate from the city. So that's why we are requesting the revolving fund so we can maintain the account, we can charge off, the administrative services and the businesses that the city provides. We can bring in the income. We can't take the revenue from the auxiliary services and put it in the general fund. It has to stay all separate, which is why I believe we were in the rush to create the revolving fund. So I just wanted to add that in because I am in support of it. I do agree they need to get paid. I've heard, complaints as well. So I just want to say that's why it's such a rush. So,
Counselor McGivern, then Counselor Leahy.
The question to the auditor, Tanya, the city provides the officers to contractors, for the purpose of these details. And the city does so because it's using city employees. The auxiliary, and we all know, do a fantastic job, and I think this is a great way to use the utilities and a wonderful way to put some dollars into their pockets. But if the auxiliaries are being used for a detail, why can't they just be paid directly by the contractor?
I believe they were being directly paid by the contracting services.
Why do we have to be the
this.
third party?
They weren't getting paid. Contractors weren't paying them.
Well,
Sometimes.
that could be resolved easily enough.
Counselor Miotti? I'm Counselor Miotti, Captain Miotti.
I'll take
Counselor,
it.
you're here so much, Counselor.
Thank you. So with our new computer system, the DTS, all the billing has to go through that, and that's why.
Why?
To keep everything transparent and everything goes through the payroll.
No, but these are not city employees. These are auxiliaries.
Right. But when they take a road job, this is how it just goes through now because of the DTS system. And by doing it the old way, the Dietrichs had to do it all by hand, and they were running into the same problem that companies were not paying them for months at a time. And we can solve that by putting it through DTS, us taking over the billing, because eventually the Dietrichs are going to leave. And then nobody's going to be doing that paperwork. And if we do this now, we can get a jump on it. And we're just trying to do that these people will be paid, they should be paid, and that if we stay with the old system, it's going to fail.
So just one question that goes to legal. This has to go to ordinance?
It does.
Yeah. So regardless of what we do tonight, we cannot act on something when it first comes in before it goes to ordinance.
Well,
So it has to go to ordinance.
A thought to
Councilor
that,
Wahid.
and the ordinance committee, once again, can look like heroes because they do a great job. I believe that ordinance committee is meeting Monday night prior to the budget. Could we take it up at that time?
August 5th.
What's that?
August
August
5th, she said.
August 5th, okay.
Oh, that's next.
The night before our council meeting,
Oh, well, maybe, is that something that,
which will be the first time it could be acted on.
so, the thing is, I understand what Joe is saying, but I also understand what Captain Moriarty is saying as well, is this is an efficient program now. So now there's an actual program that is tracked. Otherwise, you had the Dietrichs doing an excellent job. However, they're almost in the position of they're doing counts receivable. You know, so I mean, they're spending majority of their time trying to track down these dollars for these fine people who are doing so much work for the city of Holyoke. I think having this program in place is an efficient thing. So I'm all in favor of it.
Council President.
I guess the bottom line question here is how fast, I mean, we can send this to ordinance and everything else and everyone else, but what, is there a way for us to pay them? I mean, do you know how much money we're actually talking, like a ballpark?
I don't have any of those numbers, but depending on the hours, if we're talking several months, I believe you said April, thousands. And that money isn't being collected as of yet, because, you know, once again, I give the Dietrichs credit for what they do, but they're not seen as an official organization, and therefore they're not treated like it, and it's not right. Well, let's admit it, when the police department, Kate McCoy, starts calling you, there's a little more strength to that. And once again, they deserve their pay.
Right, so can we take the money out of free cash, make a transfer right now
Don't have
tonight?
any.
No,
Anyone?
we
We don't have any.
There's no money in free cash?
Zero.
Hold on.
We heard that last night, $0.
Yeah, it said zero. But two,
Fantastic.
you'd have to get an appropriation.
Yeah, you have to get a.
Councilor McGivern.
So we just don't pay?
Matt, the revolving fund for officers. Captain Moriarty. Councilor Moriarty.
I'm back.
The revolving fund, well, over the years, it's run a deficit, and when it runs a deficit because contractors don't pay in a timely fashion, the city picks up the portion, so officers are paid as they go.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So if we're
part of
separating
that
the
is
auxiliary,
based
you know,
on
and
the
I
contracts.
heard the explanation, we're separating the auxiliary, the city's not gonna be able to pick up, we're still gonna have to wait for the contractors to pay the money.
Correct.
So it's another step of the money getting to the right people that's gonna even slow it down more.
No, actually, it'll speed it up, because with our DTS system, it's based on the bids that are put in through basically your cell phones. So part of this is the whole DTS system. This is why we're doing this. And that with their separate revolving account, yes, they may not be paid for a while, but it won't be the time that they're doing right now, because we'll be the ones searching down the payments for them.
Tanya?
Go, cut them a check.
Yeah. If it's not city monies, how do we create a revolving fund?
The revolving fund is created because it's not city money, and it's tracked separately, just like we create a fund for a grant and we keep those things separate. And just to answer the question about the city paying them out of the general fund, I really don't feel like the city is in the financial position. Maybe the police captain has extra money in some of his expense
It's actually
lines.
illegal to pay out of the general fund. I think we all know that.
Legal? Okay.
Yes, we know that. I'm just trying to think of the quickest way to do this. I think we're making it a longer procedure, but I'm open-minded. I'll listen.
All right, so 21 and 30 pursuant to the rules has to go to ordinance. So to ordinance.
Can we just,
all
Mr. President, just a
Second.
friendly amendment, just copy it to Captain Moriarty and the Dietrichs, please, too, so.
with a copy to auxiliary and to Captain
and-
Counselor.
And police department, yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Back to ordinance 7A.
Thank you. Can we, under suspension of rules, can we take up 7A and 7B as a package,
Second.
please?
Motion to take up 7A and B as a package. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? 7A is the Committee on Ordinance to refer to petition for 222 Pine Street, street vendor license to be located at 436 High Street. Consider the same be approved with the following conditions. Applicant be authorized to operate the food cart March 1st to November 30th, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Under discussion, Counselor Bacon?
7B.
You're going to do B?
Oh, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. That was A. B is Committee on Ordinance for a petition for 261 Elm Street, another vendor license. Recommended that be approved with the 3 conditions. Food cart will be operated between the hours of 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. from March 1st to October 31st. Applicant may have chairs and tables around the cart so long as necessary. Permits and paperwork from the Board of Health and DPW are obtained, and applicant must keep area maintained and clean.
So the motion is to receive the committee report and grant the vendor licenses.
Motion is to receive, adopt, and grant the licenses. Under discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe all of the conditions are properly listed on the agenda, so there's really nothing further to add, and we wish them luck and good business with their projects.
So the clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 7A and B together. The name that was pulled was Counselor Bresnahan first.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
First time in 8 years.
First time I've ever been pulled first in 8 years. Never. I used to always take my name out of the little bucket.
means
But
I'm
I
last for the
forgot
first time.
tonight.
Wow. That's incredible.
Mike, are you telling them how to vote?
LeBron
How was your job
Martinez?
last night, Joe?
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Gladys? LeBron Martinez?
Finally, the caboose.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approve both 7A and B. 7C. Committee on Ordinance to refer the City of Holyoke amend 710-4 for marijuana facilities. The distance requirement for any pre-existing public and public school providing education pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and grades 1 through 12 measures from the lot lines to 200 feet only as permissible under Mass General Law 94G. Special permit is pending. Recommended that be adopted.
So the motion is to receive the committee report and pass the first reading.
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Counselor Bacon.
So this order was filed, and I'll defer to the maker of the order if he wishes to add to this. It was filed by him, given that there is some interest that fell within the 500-foot buffer that is the state requirement. And so we undertook to review the impact, and the ward counselor did his due diligence relative to the affected schools within that area and came back with positive recommendation from the schools to the committee. And because this would be an exception under the ordinance, the added notice was built in to this amendment to the buffer. And I understand and would just like to offer one amendment, and that is, it was submitted to me by one of our members, Councilor Bartley, that the notice be by certified mail so that we would know the notice occurred.
So motion to add
Yes, so.
that notice be by certified mail.
Yeah,
It's
where's-
noticed, yeah.
Todd, I don't have yeah, it's, it was chapter, paragraph B, I think, in there. I don't have it in front of me.
But we just want to add certified.
Yeah, just to the right part of the ordinance change. So notice by certified mail, Todd.
Right.
And
it's the
notice, so
second to
motion is to amend that it be given by certified mail. We do have the legal opinion here.
You have the legal language
Yep,
there.
I do have it here.
No, yeah, so
I don't have it
it'd
in
be,
front of me.
so it'd be added after noticed, which is the second to the last line.
Yep.
By certified mail.
Yeah. So I'll
Notice
second
by
that amendment.
certified mail. And that was seconded.
Yeah, I'll second that amendment, yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So the amendment being placed in. Anything further, Counselor Bacon?
No, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, Counselor Murphy.
Yeah, first of all, thank the committee for meeting, and we had a few public hearings, but I did get the breakdown of the ordinance from the city solicitor, and I would like to make one amendment under where it says adding at the end of section 710.4 in the first paragraph. I would like it to read, any MME doing cultivation only shall not be located within 200 feet. I would like to add any MME doing cultivation only. The original intent.
Doing cultivation only.
Doing cultivation only. The order was for cultivation. When I met with the principals of the schools, the idea was that it was cultivation only and not manufacturing or product development other than cultivation. So that was the intent of the order. That was the intent of the public hearing. So I want to make sure, as I understand, an MME includes production. So I want to make sure that it's cultivation only.
So under the first sentence, it says, any MME shall not be located within 200 feet of any pre-existing public or private school. He's now asking that it be any MME
Doing cultivation.
doing cultivation only shall not be located. Everyone understand that? Is there a second to that?
Second.
Under discussion, Counselor Lisi?
I'm just going to speak. I understand that there's a desire to single out cultivation alone, but the manufacturing, as far as we've seen it in the city, I would say nearly all the applicants have been completely vertically integrated manufacturing enterprises. They're doing seed to product. So they're doing, marijuana manufacturing establishments are doing everything vertically integrated, from cultivating seeds, cultivating plants, snipping buds, sending flowers out for sale, and then also creating products. So I think you're really going to be taking all the value and benefit out of the amendment if you're going to limit it to MMEs that are only doing cultivation, because as far as I understand, we haven't seen any companies come into the city that are doing cultivation only. They're nearly completely vertically integrated.
Counselor Bacon?
So, Mr. President, we had more than one public hearing on this matter, and it was specifically discussed, and I understand that Counselor Murphy is clarifying the language additionally, but the language before us tonight clearly says that measured from the lot lines of impacted properties to 200 feet for cultivation factories only. It's already in the language, in another portion of the language. I understand Counselor Murphy wants to amend the earlier portion of the language, but it is stated specifically in there.
Not in the ordinance as I've gotten from the city solicitor.
Not on, it's
Unless
what's
it's been
printed on
changed.
our agenda. Crystal, do we have a
It
conflict?
says, so here, just so we have the legal language here, Section 1, Appendix A, entitled Zoning of the Revised Code of Ordinance of the City of Holyoke, Massachusetts, 1997, as amended, it hereby be further amended by the following, adding at the end of Section 710.4. So at the end of 710.4, you're adding the language that you got in your email, of which it doesn't say cultivation.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Why
But
doesn't
that's-
it say that?
Well,
I don't know if the beginning of
Order to-
710.4 says or not.
Now, why does it say that?
Well, on our agenda, the language is stating it, and that is the language that was supposed to be in the legal form.
Yeah, that was
And
absolutely
Just
a legal
reading
form.
what's before me.
I thought it was in the legal form. I may have read it too quickly because I was reading the agenda. But it's on the agenda, and so Counselor Murphy is simply restoring the language to what we all have before us.
It's absolute fact.
Counselor Murphy?
Yeah, I mean, again, and I could be wrong, but I didn't see anything about the cultivation on the legal document that was submitted to us, so I'm just trying to make sure that
I hear you.
the meeting and the order that was filed, which was for cultivation only, and the discussions I had with the school people were for cultivations only, and the property owners who have been talking to me about people that want to come and do cultivation. This is also doing it within 200 feet of a school. And with all due respect, and I hope that all the cannabis industries do a great job and are very safe, but I'm not necessarily sure I want to bring manufacturing closer to a school where we're talking brownies and candies and other things. This cultivation, to me, provided an opportunity for those two locations, which were 225 feet away, to be able to have someone move into their factory and start doing cultivation. Both of those landlords have endorsed this concept. Both of the school principals have endorsed the concept, but the school principals have made it pretty clear to me the limit to them was cultivation.
Well, and if I may,
Counselor Aiken, then Counselor Bartley, and Counselor Lisi.
we made that crystal clear in the committee for the language form.
Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make sure that, so we're talking about section 1, the first paragraph that starts, any MME shall not be located within 200 feet of the of any pre-existing public or private school providing education in pre-K, kindergarten, or any grades 1 through 12. Distance to be measured from the lot line of impacted properties. Now, it finishes on this legal form with a period. It shouldn't. It should be, there should be a semicolon, then it should be measured from the lot lines of impacted properties to 200 feet for cultivation factories only as permissible under MGL 94G, Section 5B3. So that should be, Councilor Murphy, that should be the amendment. So I'm going to make a friendly amendment to Councilor Murphy's amendment to specify exactly what the language was. I'm dumbfounded as to why it's not in here, but it's not in here. So that's my amendment to add that specific language, Mr. President, is from the semicolon to the period after section 5B3.
Please
period.
read it again so we can.
Yeah, Mr. President, so the amendment is as follows. After impacted properties where there's a period, strike the period and say measured from the lot lines of impacted properties for this here says to 200 feet for cultivation factories only as permissible under MGL 94G, Section 5B3.
And give me that site again, the last part.
MGL 94, G as in George, Section 5B3.
Right off the agenda.
So that was the amendment to that section. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There is a second. Another discussion? Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. I just have a question. Just because we don't have the full text in front of us of the entire ordinance that governs marijuana establishments of any sort, can we suspend the rules and ask Crystal to clarify whether or not the measurements from the lot lines are listed elsewhere, and that's why they're missing from this section?
Motion is to suspend the rules to allow us to ask legal questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
At a public hearing.
Can you just, I mean, I don't know what you're asking. We don't have, there's no buffer regulated in our ordinance right now, so we don't have measurements from lot lines in there now.
Okay, so we need to distinguish this piece here if we want it to be from the lot lines.
Right, so that's, sometimes you go as the crow flies, sometimes you go from lot line to lot line, so that's the way we worded it this way.
Okay, sure, thank you. And I'm still in queue for the general discussion, not on the amendment, though.
So you can Well, on the amendment then, Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, this is a question for Crystal also. Crystal, we keep referring to a cultivation factory. I only know of marijuana manufacturing establishments. And I understand Councilor Murphy's concern about candies and stuff like that, but one of the things in the manufacturing establishment, they don't just grow a flower, they also extract oils. So would this prohibit, I mean, that to me is a key part of this whole cultivation process. It's the oils and stuff like that that are sold and go into the manufacturing of edibles, and even some of them go to CDB, non-psychoactive ingredients and stuff like that. Would that somehow prohibit any of these activities as well? So a little clarification on that, if you could, especially around this cultivation factory. Is there such a thing?
So the reason it was worded this way is that a cultivation facility would come under an MME. So when someone's applying for a special permit, they apply under one of our facilities, either an MME, an RMRE, an MMD. So depending on how detailed they get with their special permit, when they apply, you may not know whether they're doing cultivation, manufacturing, processing. Some of them come in and just say special permit for an MME. So I would assume you'd want the schools to get notified that they're doing that. It wasn't left out intentionally by any means. It was just the way a special permit comes in is going to be that way. So that's why it was worded that way. But we can change it to cultivation only. As Councilor Lisi said, I haven't seen one that's going to come in and simply cultivate. You're going to do seed to sale. I mean, that's the whole idea of the marijuana industry, is keeping that process within the confines. So, I mean, we can change it. I don't know that you're going to ever be able to utilize the 200-foot buffer at that point, but I can change it and we can submit the legal form that way.
So this would, in effect, limit any new facility. It wouldn't affect anything existing, but any new one coming in and wanted to be within 200 feet of a school would only grow. They couldn't even do extraction of oils or any other function at all, except virtually a greenhouse facility.
Right, between the 200, so basically we'd be capturing what you would consider the donut, I guess, from 200 to 500 feet. Anyone that's cultivating would have to be notified, but only cultivating. So anything beyond that would have to be outside the 500-foot buffer.
Yeah, so we could do this, but we're really not going to attract anyone at all with this new zone or zoning ordinance. would be the bottom line on it.
Councilor Barn Martinez, and
I'm somewhat confused because I thought the cultivation is looked at as like like a manufacturing facility that you're producing anything else, and then that the dispensary is where we should keep away from close of the schools, because that's where any of these edibles, you call them, will be sold, to the public, and I think that's one of the concerns of the schools, because I remember when it was happening within Ward 1 and the facility that we have on Appleton Street, that it was more concerning of what can be produced there that can be sold. And I don't think it's more when it's at the dispensary level, because they're not going to be able to produce any edibles or things that the children can get a hand on by then. So I'm just curious how, why are they like understanding that the school is concerned, but I'm making sure that they're not thinking that they're going to probably, unless they're writing in that they're going to do the edibles and selling them out of their own facility, which is never should be the case. But
hold on.
I'm just.
First you.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just didn't want it back and forth.
Okay,
so you
go ahead.
keep going.
I'm done. I think I'm done. Just.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I mean, I think that the way that we talk about this in colloquial terms, or like the shorthand, is like we say cultivation, manufacturing, we use those terms interchangeably. And it came up through the meeting. There was a suggestion that came through the planning board's recommendation to expand the 200-foot buffer to retail establishments as well. And we heard loud and clear from Councilor Murphy, like, no, retail, no. So dispensaries, or when medical marijuana is sold, you go to the dispensary, you need the prescription or the card in order to get those products. The retail sales points are going to be the edibles, the gummies, the chocolates, and the tinctures and the CBD oils. But really, as I mentioned earlier, manufacturing is going to be the cultivation, and these vertically integrated manufacturing establishments that there's been no one that's come before the city to do cultivation alone, and to use the term that Councilor Sullivan referenced, like, no one's doing just a greenhouse operation. They're doing seed to sale, and the sale is wholesale, not retail. So you can't interface with these manufacturing establishments as a member of the public. You have to be another licensed entity in order to buy the wholesale products from those entities, unless that entity also has a retail establishment license. So I do think that some things got confused in the shorthand manner with the way that we talk about this. I was definitely under the impression that we're talking about manufacturing establishments, and that it was loud and clear that dispensaries and retail establishments were not part of the conversation that Councilor Murphy had with the schools. But as far as I'm concerned, with the amendment on the 200 feet from the lot line, I think that this is capturing what we discussed in committee.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, let me just make sure I know what I said, because I never said anything other than cultivation. I didn't go into retail, I didn't go into manufacturing, I just said cultivation only. And let me also say that I've had the two property owners, and I've met with people that are interested in doing cultivation in those facilities. So at least from those 2 points, that's what I filed. I filed it, I met with schools, and that's what basically they agreed to. And I realized it wouldn't be sold to a person, but that doesn't mean that some of that stuff doesn't come out of there if you start manufacturing whatever you're doing in terms of candy, brownies, or whatever. So I'm trying to do what I said I was doing, which is to expand the potential for those factories to have cultivation, and to also have the concern of the schools in this ordinance, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm hoping that we can do the amendment, and if other people want to file another order to change that, then I would recommend you to do that. But I mean, this is exactly what I've been talking about for the last 2.5 or 3 months. I've met with people several times, and my hope is that with the amendments that have been suggested, we would adopt the order tonight.
All right, so we're back to the amendment, which is after the first sentence, which is impacted properties. It's the last 2 words. Adding 200 feet for cultivation factories only as permissible under Mass General Law 90G, Section 5, little b 3, period. That is the amendment on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes would have it.
And Mr. President, can you clarify whether or not we voted on the previous amendment that was proposed?
We didn't, because there was another amendment that
Okay,
went over that.
I just want to make sure, thanks.
Yep.
So we are under motion to pass the first reading as amended.
All right, so motion is to pass the first reading as amended.
With only one amendment or 2 amendments?
There's only one. There's only one amendment. The first one did not. The original motion of any MME cultivation, doing cultivation only, was taken over by another amendment. That one was passed.
So can I have that as another amendment? I just want to make sure that the cultivation, make sure that that's what we're getting.
The language is now in there.
It says
pursuant to Councilor Bartley's amendment, which is what I just read. And if you look at 7C, as Councilor Vacan correctly pointed out, it's in the order, It just wasn't in the language on the legal.
Okay,
Which
thank
is
you.
now, whatever is on 7C is now mirrored in with the amendment. So motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to pass the
All those
second
opposed?
reading?
Hold on, no opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion is to pass the second reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
No.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained?
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for.
Mr. President, can I motion to make an amendment then? Because I feel like we're going down this track and it's not representing at least what I'd like to say, and I'd like to have a chance to see if other people would support my amendment.
So you're making a motion to amend what?
The language that's before us. So I'd like to strike the cultivation only part. I don't think that makes sense.
So instead of having it read, because it was added to 200 feet for cultivation factories only as permissible under Mass General Law 90G Section 5B3, you want it to read to 200 feet, striking for cultivation factories, leaving only as permissible under Mass General Law 94G Section 5B3.
If that is the reference to the medical marijuana establishments as a whole, yes, but I'm not clear if that's the case based on 7C and then looking again at the legal form. I mean, to me, I was in favor of the legal form with the amendment of the lot line measurements. As
Yeah,
an
what you
amendment.
see, just for clarification for those who are at home, what you see in 7C, you're missing what I just read as the new amendment to the legal language that was missing. That was what was missing. That has now been added through the amendment. You are now making a motion to strike what we just put back?
No, I mean, so when I read the legal form, any school that exists between 200 and 500 feet of the proposed MME lot line shall, so that's, I mean, to me, the legal form has it all. I mean, I was under the impression that the legal lot line was not here, and that's what we were amending.
That
but-
is still there, to let you know, Counselor. That is still there. That's the next paragraph down.
Yes. So then I'm going to ask to reconsider the amendment.
Motion is to reconsider the amendment.
Second.
It is seconded. Our discussion?
Just want to make it clear, when I read the full legal language, we're talking about MMEs, and they're not going to be allowed to be located within 200 feet of any pre-existing public or private school. We talked about the pre-kinder, kinder, and 1 through 12, and measured from the lot line of impacted properties. So to me, this is capturing, again, the conversation that we had in committee, and this is what I want to vote on. So I'd like to reconsider the amendment to limit it to cultivation within the MMEs.
So, just to be clear on your amendment, you want it to leave it the way the legal language came in and not add the amendment. I think that
Yes.
would be easier for everyone to understand.
Yep.
Okay.
So reconsider the amendment.
Yeah, and that was seconded. Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had more than one public hearing on this. We're basically redoing the ordinance committee, only at the full city council meeting. All opportunity for the questions to be asked and answered happened. There was debate within the committee relative to this point. And the ward counselor has spoken for himself. He is the one that made the motion, that filed the order, did all the due diligence on it, met with the schools, and opened the door to make these warehouses usable, where under the current law, they would not have been usable. So this was a compromise for people who don't want the business anywhere near a school, and the people who felt that this would be a non-harmful activity within the 500-foot buffer. That is why this is before you from the committee in a 4-to-1 vote. And the committee did its due diligence. There is a minority position within the committee. However, I think the work of the committee speaks for itself, and I just don't think it's terribly productive to redo committee meetings at the full city council. Thank you.
So the motion is to reconsider and remove the amended language, which was 200 feet for cultivation factories only as permissible under Mass General Law 94G, Section 5B3. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Oh. I'd say the ayes have it. Do we want a show of hands?
So who has it?
Noes have it.
But no, that's what I meant. The noes have it.
Okay.
Okay, so
No show of hands? Okay.
So I want to make sure that everybody understands that when this fails, what we're talking about in the legal form are MMEs and only cultivation factories within the MMEs. Okay.
Councilor McGivern.
Make an amendment, Mr. President, that MMEs be allowed not outright in a special permit, but by condition only.
Motion is to amend by saying, say that again, Counselor?
The MME portion of the manufacturing be allowed by condition, not outright in the special permit language, but by condition only on the same special permit.
So it's saying MME manufacturing by say it again, Counselor, so I said it, write it down correctly.
That the
MME manufacturing
manufacturing is, cultivation is the growing of a product. If you're a garment factory, it's the cutting of the fabric, the producing of the fabric, cutting of it, and preparing it to be sold. The product itself eventually has to be sold, packaged, and shipped out the door. So I think the problem here, if I'm reading it correctly, is that the concern of how the final product is going to be if a cultivation entity were to take what they grow and put it into the final product. And to me, it would be better if we just said, they can, under condition, they can do so, but it has to be shipped out of the building. The people who are buying it don't come into the building to buy it, but they buy it and the product gets shipped to them, to their dispensary itself. But this would be another step that would allow by, not just by special permit outright, but also by a condition that says, all right, it may not be good in this location, but it will work in this location, even though it's within that 500-foot buffer.
So just to let you know, Councilor McGivern, what was approved was after the end of the first sentence, where it says impacted properties, 200 feet for cultivation factories only. You want to remove cultivation factories and say MME?
No, I want to keep that.
Okay.
I want to add a line that says, but by condition, an additional condition, you can allow the additional grooming of the product itself.
All right, so at the end where it says 5B3, comma, but MME manufacturing condition only by special permit. Is that how you're saying it, Counselor? I just want to make sure we get the language correct. Before I go around, let's make sure we get the motion correct. Exactly where you want it.
Can you repeat what you said?
So at the end, where it says 5B3, comma, however, but MME manufacturing only on condition of a special permit.
No, only on a condition to this special permit.
Only on a condition to the special permit. Is there a second to that?
Second.
It was seconded. Anyone under discussion for that motion? Counselor Bacon?
I just want to
sorry.
clarify under suspension of the rules with legal. My understanding for the special permits is they either come in, they apply for an MME and RMRE or whatever the other alphabet soup is. So they can only come in for the special permit under 1, 2, or 3 of those definitions under the ordinance.
We're still under suspension, so.
I just want to
legal.
clarify
Yep.
that.
Legal, did you hear the question?
Right, so traditionally the special permits come in under one of our facilities, either an MME, so you either manufacture, cultivate, process, or you come in under an RMRE, so you're a recreational marijuana establishment,
Or the medical.
or testing or medical. We only have 4.
Okay.
So I think what Councilor McGivern is saying, that by condition, we could get away from just cultivation only. So if someone was coming in to apply for an MME special permit, we'd have to hope that it's narrowed down whether or not they cultivate only or process and manufacture to trigger the notices going out. But I think, and he can speak to this, he's saying that if they come in under a full MME but want to be within that 200 to 500 feet and they're looking for something other than cultivation only, so saying they want to cultivate, manufacture, and process, that we could add it as a condition under their special permit, and that, but I don't know how that would trigger the notices, because we would have to do notices at the time the special permit comes in so that they would have notice of the public hearing, I think.
They would have to.
No, don't say
Really?
that.
We are back in committee. Were you
Yeah.
kidding?
Councilor McGivern, do you have anything further, or?
No.
On the motion.
Council Lisi on the motion. This is on the motion.
Second time. So I just want to really state that, there's all these accusations made that there was lengthy discussion and somebody's changing something. No one's changing something. To me, the legal form very perfectly replicates the conversation that we had. And that I think that through the shorthand use of cultivation and manufacturing being used interchangeably, that the legal form didn't single out cultivation within the MME, because when we get these applications, it's impossible to find an MMME that's going to be a cultivation only. So again, it doesn't make any sense to have it limited to cultivation, and I think that it's just, I don't know. To me, it's going to do nothing to say that cultivation facilities within MMEs are going to be this micro use that have this provision for the lowered buffer.
There's no further discussion on Councilor McGivern's motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Chairs in doubt, show of hands if you're voting in favor of the amended language. So 7?
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance as amended.
Second.
Motion is to adopt the ordinance as amended. So we have to do passage be ordained, correct?
That's where I was.
Because that's where we were. Yep, so motion is that the passage be ordained with all the motions that have been approved. Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect to all of you, to me, this would be, when we had public hearings, when I filed the order with Councilor Tallman and Bresnan, it was clear that we were talking cultivation only. We had a public hearing, we talked cultivation only. I had people that were talking to me, it was cultivation only. And to me, 2 things. Number 1, if we're amending this so that it's not cultivation only, we have basically made the public hearing process for that a moot point, because we're doing something well beyond what the original intent of the order was. And then why do we have a public hearing on that particular order? It should be up or down. If you don't want the cultivation, then I think we ought to start the entire new process to go back and have someone file an order that they want to do that, and have another public hearing so that people can be aware, including the schools, as to what we are now talking. Because again, the entire 2 or 3 months that I've been working on this, every comment I made in the ordinance committee, there was no doubt whatsoever that my comments, my intention was for cultivation only. And so I just don't want to have that, my integrity, in effect, questioned about what I was doing. And that's exactly what I've said all along. And I will certainly not support an amendment that goes beyond that, because I told people that that's what I was filing and that's what I would support.
Councilor Bacon.
Could I suggest that we reconsider the final amendment to remove it, and move the ordinance forward as recommended out of committee. There can be future orders filed to further amend any ordinance.
Are there going to be future ordinance committee meetings?
Hold on.
We have another one relative to the marijuana ordinance that has just been sent to committee from our last city council meeting. So, I mean, there's future opportunities. It's not like if we do this way tonight, we can never, ever do anything else later on.
So your motion is to, say it again, so I got it right.
Reconsider that last
Reconsider the
amendment.
last amendment. All those
To
in
remove
favor?
it.
Aye.
Is there any discussion?
All, on discussion first, yeah, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. First of all, I'm not, and I don't think it was pointed at me, but I'm not questioning anyone's integrity. And I understand the intent of the maker of the order, and I'm not questioning the work of the ordinance committee, because I respect and have always respected the work of the ordinance committee. I may have just misunderstood what cultivation means when I read the original order, and I just thought cultivation was part of manufacturing, which I think it is. And being a man, I worked in a manufacturing area for 10 years. Manufacturing isn't just, taking the product in the beginning, starting it, and then shipping it somewhere else. That's where it becomes very expensive. You take the product in one door and you get it ready to go out the other door, and then ship it to the retail dispensary, in this case, to sell the product. So I misunderstood the word cultivation. When I got the legal language, I said, this looks good, makes sense to me. Someone that's not selling, to the public, can go within that 500, but not within 200 feet of the entities that we try to protect from this. So with all due respect, I read it, I may have misunderstood part of it, but I'm just reacting to what I read here before we came to this evening. If someone wants to start this whole thing over, I'm fine with that, but I thought my amendment was a compromise to get between two disagreements here on what we're all trying to accomplish, is to get jobs and tax base and get more tax dollars so we can pay for what group homes don't pay for.
So the motion is to reconsider. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Chair's in doubt. Motion is to reconsider. If you raise your hand, you're voting yes to reconsider. 6. So that fails. So we're back on the
Motion.
main motion is the passage be ordained as amended. Clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the amendments and the new legal language.
Bresnahan?
Nope.
Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi? McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
No.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
6 yeas, 6 nays.
So it does not pass.
Councilor Lisi, take a vote, please.
7 yeas, 6 nays.
All right, so on to 7D.
I guess anybody can ask for a vote, huh?
He's got the, yeah.
I guess that we don't need a president.
What happened?
Well, we needed 9.
It was tied.
Yeah.
Moving on.
7-6.
7-6, right?
I know. I'm just saying, I should just yell out, vote. I mean, that's your
Does
job.
this need the
Not-
9
we
votes?
We don't need other counselors, suggesting
All right,
people
all right.
vote. I think we have a president for that purpose.
All right, settle down, everyone. Counselor Murphy.
Does
you have a
it need,
question? You need 9 votes for.
9 votes, there's only
This is a
7.
zone change.
Yeah,
It's a
need
change.
9
I
votes.
think his
it's gonna
concern
pass.
was the process.
Yeah, the process is what I'm concerned about, not the outcome.
All right,
What's the concern about the process, Mr. President?
now that we're gonna move on. It's-
Well, I think I'd
Mr.
love to
President?
move on, but I'm just asking.
Moving
So
on
the
up.
process
Moving on
is
up.
that 7C was 7-6. It did not pass.
7-0.
So therefore, you're now on to 7D.
Well, Mr. President, I was just going to make a motion to reconsider for the purpose of laying on the table.
I'll second that.
So Sorry, there was a question.
Just a motion to reconsider for the purposes of laying on the table.
Motion is to reconsider
Second.
7C. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
And the motion is just to lay on the table.
Motion is to lay on the
Second.
table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. So 7C is laid on the table. 7D, the Committee on Ordinance, refer an order that the Chief Pond be invited to the Ordinance Committee to discuss.
Mr. President, point of order, can we like literally just stop the snickering and the comments? I mean, first of all, I
You
mean,
can't do
come
that. It's
on.
freedom of speech.
It's,
Counselor
it's
President,
about
you're out of
keeping the
order.
decorum in
Out of order,
here.
please. Come on.
I mean, there's an issue because Counselor McGivern asks for the vote because the counselor walks back in, but there's no issue when somebody shows up 2 hours late to do a vote and then
Or
leaves.
dressed in a t-shirt.
Okay, all right.
Come on.
Everyone's out of order. Hey,
That.
out of
Polo shirts
order.
required.
We are on to 7D. That's it, everyone.
Not to Cincinnati.
Let's move on. This is Committee on Ordinance, that the chief be invited in to discuss the incentive program for 6-family and residential properties installing and upgrading fire protection systems, order that's been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. A motion is to receive and adopt the committee report that the order is complied with.
Motion is receive, adopt the committee report that's been complied with. Our discussion?
Yes, this was a very good meeting. Counselor Valentin had filed a follow-up order to an earlier item that we had taken up that led to the idea that there may be a temporary reduction in those new fees that had created some objection amongst the property owners because the review of the plans had really increased in cost significantly. And so following the initial meeting, Counselor Valentin filed this order, and Chief Pond came in and made a recommendation to lower the rate from the 5 cents to the 2 cents for the period of a year, starting July, ending June 30th. He has full authority to do this of his own authority. He does not need action by the council. And so he came in and shared with us his ideas relative to that, and so we found the order complied with. And the goal is, of course, to get the business owners and of these multi-tenant buildings in compliance for safety throughout the entire community. And it will save them a lot of money if they do it in this next year.
Anyone further? Councilor
Yeah,
Barton.
I just want to make a point that it was a very good meeting, it was a good order, and Ron, appreciate the chief. I also want to just appreciate all the vital information that Captain Cavagnac provided to us as head of the Fire Prevention Safety Bureau and the HFD. I did say to the chief that as one of the things that we study, or I studied, is a lot of administrative law, and one of the things that where agencies get in trouble is when we start doing arbitrary rules. But the chief made it clear that this is for a 1-year period from July 1st to June 30th, that he's going to reach out to every eligible building owner, I think is the best way to put it, and make that letter crystal clear that you have from July 1 of 2019 to June 30th of 2022 accept these changes at these rates. As of July 1st, 2020, the rates go back to what they were. So I think that was an important point that we talked about, and the chief accepted that, and we move on. Thank you.
Anyone further? Motion has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7E.
D. E, right, E.
E.
Yep.
Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the mayor, school receiver, law department work together to provide a legal contractual commitment for the school department to provide the $1 million a year towards the 2 middle schools. Please report the status of the discussion to the City Council by September 17th. I've considered, and you're referring it to Finance Committee.
Yes, so the motion is to receive the committee report and refer it to finance.
Motion
The
is
intent of the maker was for it to go to finance.
Motion is receive and send to Finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Finance. 8A.
Make a motion to suspend rules to take 8A and 8B up as a package.
Motion to take 8A and B as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 8A is an MOA for the Hoyoke Deputy Fire Chiefs Association, and 8B is an MOA between the City of Hoyoke Professional Services Association regarding the official wire and National Service Office. Motion is that they've been complied with.
Make a motion to adopt.
Motion is to receive and
Second.
adopt that they've been complied with. Our discussion, Councilor
Thank you,
McGivern.
Mr. President. Just as a real quick caveat, we had a very good attendance last night at the Finance Committee meeting. 5 members of the committee, and at one point, or almost the entire evening, an additional 4 city councilors who all participated in the discussion. So I'll be brief with most of these ones that are controversial. I'm sure we'll have some more debate on. But on these two, we're just doing our job of receiving the MOAs, and the actual votes to whether we endorse and ratify the MOA will take place for item B, no question, at the budget hearing next week. And for item A, we're researching to see if the money for the deputy chief's MOA is in the budget that's before us. We will get an answer for that from the auditor and from the fire department prior to next week. I believe it's Tuesday that we're voting on the budget. But real quickly, the fire department's MOA includes some, it looks like cost of living increases, 1.5%, starting in July 1 of this year, for this coming fiscal year, and another 1.5% in January, then some additional increases in future years. One thing to note in this MOA, there are some things that are being rolled into the base pay, one time only for uniform allowance for deputy chiefs, and there's one other one that was being rolled in. Longevity pay. One time means that the base pay would remain the same for anybody that was promoted in the future. There would be nothing else rolled in. They would just get what was expected and expected by their uniforms out of their base pay. The MOA, the second MOA with the Professionals Association, has 2 new positions in it. One is found on page 2223, which is the chief official of wires. We've had one prior discussion about that. Damian Cody was in making an argument that this position elevates the certification, elevates the education of the person who can perform this job, and he makes an argument that he is having difficulty at the lower levels trying to fill the positions to get the different types of work done in the department. The second one is found on page 40, called the National Service Office position, which is the Veteran Service. Jesus was in at a prior meeting, and Damian, as the vice chair of the association, told us that this position is someone who can perform, along with the director, Jesus, with the at the national level with the certification, accreditation, and working leads, and then the salary goes hand in hand with that. And if you look on page 40, if you have your budget, or again, this will be for discussion next week, the actual vote. If you look on page 40, the current position of deputy commissioner is not funded, and the position is funded for this level at a max of the grade itself of 49,547, and there is an investigator position at 35,000 with the head clerk not being funded also. Again, our responsibility is, before we vote, is to vote on appropriations. We must have the MOAs or any contractual language, new language, before us at least a week or two prior to a vote. We've always accepted that. The difference here is we did the work in the Finance Committee, knowing that the actual appropriation vote is in the budget. Not unprecedented, but it is a little bit unusual, but we'll just put it out for your informational purposes. And again, the actual vote would take place next week.
Councilor Bacon.
I have a question through the chair, because I was just left with a question that maybe Councilor McGivern knows the answer to. So when they were saying they were rolling in the longevity at 3%, into the base pay. Was it your understanding that that was every year for the duration of the contract?
My understanding, and that's a good question on both the roll-ins, is it changes the base pay one time, and then the base pay, the next, for the deputy chiefs that are there now, it's only one roll-in, and then the base pay, the next person that got promoted would just get the base pay, would not have longevity, would not have uniform allowance.
I wasn't clear on the longevity part, because I was struck by the cost, and we have to see if it's in the budget, because it's a $32,000 cost for the 6 people.
Correct.
So, and we don't know if the money's in the budget or not, so.
I have a feeling
Big
not
question.
all the deputy chief money is in the budget, but we're waiting to get that answer from those who put the budget together and from the auditor, more important.
Council President.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, Joe, so the intentions are to have the chief inspector of wires as well as the wire inspector?
That is correct.
Have we seen have we gotten the permits pulled for electrical over any documentations to indicate that between 2018, 2019, and with a trending budget as we move forward to 2020, that the electrical permits are going to go through the roof?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer to that.
Councilor Bacon?
Mr. Cody did provide me with a sheet last night, but he was only able to give me through 2018. He wasn't able to give me this year. It had been trending up, but I don't have this
Does
year.
it have just a total number?
Hang
If I
on,
could,
I
Mr.
gotta
President.
dig it out of the mess.
Well, Councilor Bacon's looking for anyone else with any questions. Councilor Sullivan?
Just a comment on that, maybe for some clarity for everybody. I think what's really going on here is the existing position would no longer be funded. The reason for the new position is, as stated, we're trying to get someone in there that's a master electrician, right? And that's what's lacking right now. And in the current position, you will never find someone, a master electrician, willing to work for that kind of pay. That's what this is really all about. We need, for a chief inspector of wires, you really need a master electrician.
Councilor Bacon, you have the...
Yes, I have
Okay.
located it. Thank you for your patience. So going back to 2014, there were 759, 2015, 747, 2016, 723. Oh, you with me, Council President? 2017, 789, 2018, 720. So from 2014 on, there's been between 723 with a high of 789, and I imagine he could have this year's available before too long. Back in 10 years ago, 699, so.
So ideally, I guess the question would be whether or not can we legally cut the wire inspector's position, because if that's
Right.
what, is that,
Right, so I was trying to get a handle on these numbers to see what, what would translate into an FTE, but he hadn't thought about it in those terms at that
Thank you.
point.
Anyone further? Councilor McGivern?
Just if I could, Mr. Cody did tell us about the spread chart that I know a copy was supposed to go to Ryan and a copy is supposed to go to everybody. Ryan, do you have a copy of that?
Are you talking about what I just read?
Because you only had one copy last night. I believe that's
He
what he
handed
was.
it to me actually after.
Okay,
the
well, he
meeting.
trusted you
But
more
I'll
than
give it to Ryan.
I'm not saying anything's wrong. I'm just saying we gotta get a copy to everybody because I forgot about that.
Right, he gave
Yeah.
it to me after the fact.
All right, so if there's no further discussion, the motion is that A and B have been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? And I'll have Ryan make a or scan it and email everybody. All right. 8C, Committee on Finance has referred that $13,475 from these various areas to several areas. Recommended that be adopted.
We could suspend the rules to take up 8K with 8C.
I'll second that.
Okay.
These were all together last night, Mr. President. I don't know what that clerk's office did.
It's all good. So, motion to suspend the rules, take up 8C and 8K as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 8K is that Committee on Finance who was referred, that's $79,474.57 from free cash to health insurance. That's the one you want, Joe? I think that's a different one. I think that's the wrong one.
No, I don't think it's that one.
I think you want,
The 8K is, do we have a different agenda? I apologize, because all my notes are on my original agenda.
so
It's the
it's
1,300
one-
from overtime to two different overtimes.
Yeah, let's find that one. Okay, so it's 8I.
Aye, yeah.
Thank you.
So instead of 8K, motion to suspend the rules to take up 8C and 8I as it's a package. All those in
Second.
favor? All
Aye.
opposed? These do go together. 8C, once again, was $13,475 in order to pay for expenses for forestry overtime, building maintenance, labor overtime, and so on. The 8I is 1,300 from overtime to, then add to overtime, 550, 750, which then goes to all those that are listed on 8C. So as Mike McManus told us, he needed $14,775, which then you need both to then cover all these payments for these areas. So, motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading under discussion. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The reason for the transfers, the items that they're going into is typical this time of year, and our new auditor, for the first time, took on the task of working with department heads to look for deficiencies within the end of their fiscal year budget, meaning where they don't have enough money to pay what they are required to pay for the rest of the year. In most cases, it's not a lot of money, and we did unearth a couple of examples here. Some of these positions here are short $50 or less, and they're just rectifying and accounting by putting the money into them. And some of these overtime accounts, with Councilor Murphy and myself questioning Ms. McManus about this, were overtime that was authorized when there was no money in these overtime accounts. As we know, there used to be overtime was overtime, but now overtime is broken down in bigger department budgets like this, accordingly to the actual department, forestry, traffic, highways, bridges, and so forth. The money is coming from, I'll just remind everyone, last year, and this would have been in your budget. You can see it this year on page 34. There was what was called, and again called last night, a Scribner's error, where in the account line item known for 51102, the motor equipment repairman, there should have been 2 in the budget. There was money for 4. But what was part of the problem was that there was money needed for a second account, which is what they're transferring here to be able to pay for the 2 people. It's at a lower rate, and at the same time creates the surplus that they're using to. So it's Mike McManus just shoring up his budget within his budget and moving things around a little bit. Committee recommends that we adopt it.
Anyone else? Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 8C and 8I.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman? Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approved 8C and 8I. 8D, Counselor McGivern, should we take up 8F with it?
Thank you, sir.
You're good.
Yeah, because I'm going to give you the wrong number.
So 8D and 8F as a package.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 8D is the Committee on Finance has referred in order that the city consider joining the Pioneer Valley Mosquito Control District to continue efforts of the City Board of Health to prevent human impact of West Nile. The enrollment cost is $5,000 for surveillance, outreach, and education. Then 8F would be that they're taking from sanitarian to the $5,000 to then put towards professional health services to then pay for the enrollment. So that's 8D and 8F. Motion is to receive and adopt and pass the first reading under discussion. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The order itself was filed by Councilor Bartley, a good order that looks in request, and we're going to ask that we adopt this order so that the Board of Health can enter into an agreement with the Pioneer Valley Mosquito Program, which will provide a number of different services to the city that would be both educational, both traps for outreach work, both traps to look to capture mosquitoes and to ward off and to address some of the diseases that come from some certain mosquito bites themselves. We had our Board of Health Director, our new Board of Health Director, Sean, along with one of the members of the commission. I'm going to just say the doctor was here. I'm not going to pronounce his last name, but we had a good conversation, and we agree that the $5,000 is well worth it. And we recommend, the committee recommends that both the transfer be adopted and the order be adopted. Councilor Bartley suggested that we make sure it's adopted, because at this time, and suggest that the law department and the mayor be contacted to make sure that they may have to get the approval in a different writing, but certainly the intent is correct, and we ask that we adopt it this evening.
Anyone else? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, the great order. I'm glad Councilor Bartley filed this, and it's really important, I think, for the health of the area, the community, to have this program in effect with other cities, local cities, and very informative how they do it, and talking about the downtown area, but also the areas where Councilor Bartley stated many of us go and walk, and the reservoirs in Mount Tom and different areas where people are. There's a lot of shrubberies and a lot of woods that these insects really congregate around. So a great order by Councilor Bartley, and appreciate that.
Councilor McGivern.
I always forget, the surplus in the sanitarian account, the $5,000, that was Sean's old position. He bumped up to the position of the Director of the Board of Health. That position hasn't been filled since he went up. They are advertising.
There's no further discussion. Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for D and F.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman? Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approve the transfer. Councilor McGivern, you want to take up 8E, H, and N because they're just to deny?
Thank you. Yes.
The motion is suspend rules, take up E, H, and N as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Very quickly, the EH and N, for different reasons, are being denied, but with the encouragement and suggestion of our auditor, the floating money from the floating treasurer into litigation is wrong in terms of it's only part litigation, it's part attorney fees, so we're going to deny that. There should be a replacement order coming up. I think the other one is the $26,000. The auditor suggested that we deny that one. And that was going in to pay some invoices that were paid out of the purchasers department. and where it's coming from was incorrect. And the third one, Mr. President, is
Chief Official of Wires.
Chief Official Wires. That's for this year. There's no need for it because the position isn't created yet, and the position obviously isn't filled yet, so we can deny that one.
So E, for those who are at home, is free cash of $74,109 and $14,800 from floating clerk to litigation. That is to be denied because it was not drafted correctly or there was something wrong with it, so the auditor said to give it a denial. As Councilor McGivern said correctly on 8H, it's from plumbing and gas and wire inspector, $9,988 to chief of wires, but there is no position, so that one is to deny. And 8N is $26,000 from council on aging to pay property insurance, and that was also a request by the auditor to give a denial. So motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading, to deny all three. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
To pass the second reading?
Motion is to pass the second reading. If you vote, clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting to deny. So yes is to deny.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Got it from you.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you've denied those three. On to 8G, which is Committee on Finance, $45,032 from motor equipment repairman to heavy motor equipment operator. Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Recognize that line item is, again, that, excuse me, that Scribner's error, and we're just putting this back into the position where it should have been last year during the budget discussion itself. It was supposed to have been done a long time ago, and it just got slipped between the cracks of not being changed prior to the end of the year.
For those who weren't at the meeting, in the budget, we were told right away from Mike McManus that one position read 9 when it was supposed to be 7. The other one read 4, it was supposed to be 2. But they're the same number, so they said they'd fix it ultimately at some point. This is them moving those monies to the right line item. That's all it is. So motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed. The second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approve the transfer. 8J, Committee on Finance, $7,923 from construction supervisor to senior civil engineer. Motion is to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is again a move position within the department itself. The department head is asking us to shore up the new position would have been the construction supervisors. That's why there's a surplus there, and it's moving into the civil engineer. I believe it was a grade increase during the course of the year that went unnoticed.
Anyone else? So motion, Councilor Lisi.
I'll be abstaining from this one.
Councilor Lisi will abstain. So motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Abstain.
Oh, yeah.
Abstain.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the transfer off to 8K. This one is the one we talked about earlier. Took it up by accident. Was from finance, from free cash, $79,474.57 to health insurance.
Make a motion to take off the table to pass the first reading.
Motion is receive, adopt, pass first reading. Or discussion? Councilor McGivern.
As talked about for the last couple of months, the knowing that there is a deficiency within the health insurance line item, which you'll find on your budget, if you have your budgets, on page 48. And this has been ongoing for some years for a number of different reasons. I first learned about this about 3 meetings ago. I did make an announcement under the president's report. And then we did have a discussion under the budget with the mayor here and asked him about, what his intentions were in terms of trying to rectify the health insurance deficiencies itself. So I'll do this real quick about where it's going. Free cash is obvious where it's coming from, because there's later in the agenda, there are a number of different transfer requests coming in for the same reason. The Section 19 committee was formed, I believe, 8, it might be 9 years ago now. Many of us recognize as to what took place before Section 19, that it's a healthy, good way, pardon the pun, to handle health insurance. The mayor only is responsible for health insurance and choosing of the type of policies to be offered, and in choosing and formulating the city's position as to what the portion of the city will pay. Section 19 allows the two things to come together for discussion. One, cost, and two, the needs of the employees. Needs is sometimes to some employees far more important than what they pay for health insurance. I think we all know that health insurance, not just for the city of Holyoke, but for municipalities, for the business community, for all employers, is a nightmare, no matter how you look at it. The costs just keep going out of whack each year. So what happened over the last few years is the city started offering, with the Section 19's endorsement, policies with higher deductibles than the city's portion of both the premium, and the city bought into paying a portion of the deductibles as time went on. And in doing so, it was back when John Lumber was treasurer and Brian Smith was still auditor. A formula was put together by the two gentlemen that would dictate how and when the city would put money into the account, and of course the employees would be taken out of their paychecks accordingly to what their costs were. There's been issues and discussion about this over the years, and what has happened is inadvertently, I'll stop at, with just describing it this way, the city has not always put their full share into the line item itself. What was identified, and there's been some confusion about this, is right now there's a deficiency of about $640,000 in the health insurance line. With this line item and with several line items later on the agenda, there's a proposal of transferring close to a little over $450,000 into the line item, which would shore up most of what the city owes. The auditor has worked very hard on this for the last several weeks, both with the Section 19 committee and both with department heads as to where surpluses are within the budgets which can be used. At this point in time, we're only voting on this one transfer. We believe, the city sooner or later has to, clear up the deficiency. DOR has looked at this the last couple of years with what the outside auditors have looked at. There is a separate auditing firm that helps manages this account, because as I'm sure you understand, I'm giving you the best layman description I can possibly do. It's confusing, and don't be afraid, because I'm not afraid to say for the past 39 and a half years, I've never fully understood health insurance, because it's a nightmare to no matter whoever has to deal with it. But counting on both our auditor, the Section 19 committee, the people who represent the city, and our insurance brokers, I think we have some numbers to look at that have to be rectified. We're told, and I won't get into it because we didn't get into it in detail, that the current year is in much better position as to deal with the moving target. And this line item is a moving target because we never know exactly how many people will end up with insurance, employees throughout the year, and we never know exactly what deductibles are going to be. The committee recommends on this item that we do adopt it and agree to the transfer. The committee recommended on a 4-to-1 vote, 1 dissent.
Anyone further? Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is
Second.
passed the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 8K.
Bresnahan?
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon? Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
11 yeas, 2 nays.
With your vote, you're approved. 8K. 8L, Command on Finance, free cash of $6,940.61 from various line item, to go to various line items, which is register of voters, elections clerks, Board of Reg Committee, I'm not sure who that is.
Commission.
Commission.
Commissioners.
Okay, it's commissioners.
Registers.
And then seasonal. Is this for the clerk's office? This is all for the
Yes.
clerk's office?
Yes.
Oh, so then I'll abstain from this, but that's what it's for, and then I'll now abstain. I'll have Counselor Tallman come up, or whoever? Yeah, Counselor Tallman.
It's a big dream, Pete.
Tall man rides again.
This is about my third time doing this. Hopefully we do this
And you
okay.
do a
right?
fine job, Mr. Tallman, very fine.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. Our auditor gave us the information last night. Obviously, it's coming from free cash, which is available. It is actually she didn't say Scribner's error. If I can quote you, Tanya, I think you said it was a clerical error that was made through the course of the year. This is rectifying what has also taken place. My notes are all messed up because I got 3 different agendas instead of the normal 2 agendas here. But there was one person who was elevated from one position to another position, and we're just deficiencies at the end of the year are looked upon and they are shored up before the year ends, so we don't have to do it next year. So we recommend that, her advice, and certainly the city clerk signed off on it, that we do adopt this transfer.
Motion, should have passed the first reading?
Motion made second to pass the first reading.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Now, because you're not sitting down.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion to pass the second reading and adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Clerk will call,
Need a roll call.
clerk will call the rolls.
Bartley?
Bresnahan.
Oh, yeah, Bresnahan.
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan? Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
It's
Motion
11 to 1 no.
Oh, yeah, 11 yeas. 1 nay.
Motion is
1
passed.
abstain.
Ready to come back?
Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, I'm doing the math again, and we should have a total of 12, right? Or we had 2 step out, so it's actually a total of 11.
She said 10-1, right?
So I
Isn't that what
think
you said, 10-1?
it was originally the 10-1. Sorry about that.
You had said 10-1 though, didn't you?
She did, and I corrected her, and now I'm correcting myself.
She's a teacher.
All right, so 8M. Committee on Finance was referred $13,453.92 from land court to short-term debt. Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Our discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The treasurer was present last evening. We identified that there is a surplus to the auditor in the land court line item, and the treasurer is looking for the $13,453 in short-term debt because a band, which is what short-term debt is primarily used for, a band that it needs is necessary to implement before we bond for something, came up at the end of the year a little bit out of what she was budgeted for. It makes sense that we do it. It allowing the treasurer to use short-term debt. It allows us not to bond for the full amount of the actual bond itself. Therefore, we're not creating all the interest and paying all the fees and stuff on the bond. And the band will last until it's necessary for her to go out for the full bond. Committee recommends 5-0 to adopt the transfer.
Any further discussion? Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is to pass the second reading. And clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Bresnahan? Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approve the transfer. Next is 8O, which is Committee on Finance, request of $86,556.35 from several different line items to pay for snow removal overtime and snow removal services with a grand total of the $86,556.35.
Motion received, pass the first reading for
Motion to
adoption.
receive, adopt, pass first reading. Our discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Going to snow removal overtime, I think we recognize that. Snow removal services are the contractors. That is in deficit. That is one of the few things that any department head within the city can deficit fund, can spend the money even though the money's not there. I think most of us on an ongoing basis recognize that. The money is coming from several line items. I give Mike McManus and the auditor credit for identifying it, at this time, because they were looking at this deficit for some time and trying to find the money to pay for it. And Mike wanted to live within his budget the best he could, which I give credit, especially to a young department head as Mr. McManus is. The 10,700 construction supervisor was partially vacant during the year. That's why there's a surplus in the motor equipment, heavy motor equipment operators. There are 2 employees that for part of the year were out on workman's comp. That creates a different way for which they are paid out of a different account. Under the foreman, automotive, there was a medical leave, one person was out on a medical leave for part of the year, which was also workman's comp, And under the parking control officer, Dan was out on some workman's comp, injured on duty related workman's comp. So that's why there were surpluses in each of these line items. The committee recommends that the transfer be made and that the snow removal and snow services account be taken care of.
Councilor Bresnahan?
Joe, I saw Mike talking last night. Is that construction supervisor position filled? Because we took 18,000 out of it tonight, altogether, approximately. Is that position filled?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I know he talked about it, but I don't.
No. I wrote down partial vacancy. That's
Yeah. So hold on, Councilor Vacan.
So that person departed. And the only comment I wanted to make was that in spite of the fact that there was this excess expense in the overtime, the overall snow costs were lower than budgeted. So I just think that's a point to make.
Councilor Sullivan.
That was a question I asked of Mike
They're playing games with me.
last night, and the construction supervisor position is not currently filled.
It was filled during the year, though. At one point, it was filled.
Right.
Left like 2 months ago.
For more money.
And to Councilor Bacon's point, too, not only was the snow removal down in terms of overtime, but less contractors were used, probably the least we've ever used in a given year.
Correct.
Which means Mike did a lot of it in-house.
Anyone further? So the motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 8-0.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
Brown Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approve the transfer. 8P is Committee on Finance was referred $27,020 from various line items to Assistant Director Library. Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just real quick, Maria's been in twice now, just in the past month, about this. She lost an assistant director of the library, which is one of her handful, not many full-time positions, and that position does a lot of customer service and a lot of working with the general public during the course of their the working day itself. In certain times, she just could not leave, certain positions, certain customer service positions unfilled because you needed someone to answer questions, to work with the computers, to work at the front door and so on, to check in, check out stuff. So what she has come before us is recognizing that she has gone over her budget, and she came in a while back before there was a loss in her family. And what she's looking for is to transfer money from the account of Assistant Director Library into each of these items. Now, I'm hoping that there's a late file order up there, Mr. President, because this is reversed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay. It should be, this is saying, it looks like we're taking everything from these positions into the assistant. It's the opposite. And when we come to it, or if we can suspend the rules and take it up now, the committee recommends that we allow Maria to do this transfer.
Unfortunately, there is no late file transfer. Who has it? Yep. Geez, that'd be H. Geez. It'd be late file H has appeared. Magic. So motion would be suspend the rules to take up late file H.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion would be to suspend the rules to take up final action on late file H.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So just for clarification for here, 8P, as Councilor McGivern has said, is it's supposed to be reversed. You're supposed to be taking from the assistant director to then put into all these other areas to pay out what is due. It's was written up wrong. So we do have H, late file H, that now is in proper form from assistant director, $27,020 to vacation buyback, sick buyback, computer coordinator, library assistant night, custodian, children's librarian, and so on. So I'd make a motion to deny 8P.
We're just asking people to vote no on AP and then to accept
Second.
the
So the
correct language.
motion is to receive, adopt, and deny 8P. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You need a roll call for this.
And you want the no's.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll explain that. So motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass second reading?
Clerk will
Annette?
call the roll. This is for 8P, which is done wrong. A yes vote is to deny, so yes to say.
It says adopted here.
Well, yeah, but we changed the motion to deny.
Well,
All right, so go.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. I'll do it whichever way you want.
Yeah.
All right, I was trying to make it non-confusing, but obviously that's more confusing. So if you want to leave it as motion to approve, say no.
That's what it says.
Right.
You want to do it that way?
That's what it says.
All right, so motion is to approve. All
So
those
say
in
no.
favor? All those
No.
opposed?
No.
So we say
Motion
no.
passed the second
Motion
reading.
passed the second reading.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
You got to pass the first reading to get to the second reading.
If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer, which is done wrong. So you
Right.
want to vote no.
Just say
Everyone
no.
got it? I'm not telling you how to vote, but that's proper form.
You are.
Bresnahan?
Give us a hint.
No. Mike, I said you were in charge.
Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
No.
Lisi?
Oh.
McGee?
No.
McGivern?
No.
Murphy?
No.
Sullivan?
Maybe.
Tallman?
No.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
No.
Anderson Burgos?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you denied it, but
Mr.
not by
President?
my influence. So now we're going to go to H. Hold on, let's go to H. H is the late file that was taken up that's now in proper order. Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Counselor Leahy.
No, I just have, I want to pick up another order out of, go ahead.
Okay, so we'll get through this one and go to the next. So here, pass first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is
Pass the second reading.
pass the second reading. Clerk will call it roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer. You vote however you want, but if you vote yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approved H, late file H. Counselor Leahy, you had something?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to take an order out of item number 16, introduced by Councilor McGivern. Our assistant city solicitor's been with us all night. This is the only order she's down here for, and she spent the evening with us in a marathon evening last night. So I was just asking the diligence of this committee.
All right, so motions go to order to item 16. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's free cash of $6,109, and from land court, $14,800, so total of $20,909, to claims and damages. Need a motion?
Finance?
Second.
Motion is to refer to finance. It was
Um,
seconded.
If I could, Mr. President, just for the purpose of discussion, motion to pass the first reading.
Second.
So there's a new motion. Motion is to pass the first reading. Or discussion?
For discussion. Discussion is this. This began, we had a short discussion about this last night. This is a replacement order. The order that we denied a few minutes ago, where we went from, I forget where it was from, but into litigation. The $20,909 was part of that amount of a transfer in. It was incorrect, the amount that was too much was being transferred in because the attorney's fees were in there too. But the discussing of that order last night, if anybody that wasn't here, everybody that was here can remember, is set off a debate of how to handle this. In a nutshell, this is an MCDA ruling, mediated settlement that the city wants to agree to. The city being the mayor, law department was delegated to handle the mediation, and the amount of money goes to 2 employees for a discrimination complaint that they filed against a employee of the city of Holyoke. The details were not discussed any further than last night for 2 reasons. One, we were about to go into executive session, but a question came up, and quite frankly, I brought the question up, as to the 3rd employees, because it is a personnel matter, being notified to be present, because even though it's executive session, eventually it's in public session, that we were discussing the issue itself, which involved that particular employee. That had not taken place. I'll stop there. The council president did say that there was a possibility he might consider doing this next week, of having a session before the budget session so we can do an executive session, get the details, and then make a decision. We don't make a decision on the settlement, on the litigation, and under any circumstances. This is a little different than a settlement that the mayor makes, in that it's an MCDA settlement, which is a ruling itself. It's something that I believe will have to be paid sooner or later. But for us to get the details, I'm under the opinion that the employees have to be notified we're having the discussion, and they have a choice of being present. You get that, and then you couple that with a confidentiality clause by MCDA in the city, it becomes even more complicated.
So, anyone else for discussion? No? What's the will of the body? Motion was to,
Well, I said to committee, to finance.
motion is to receive and refer to finance. I did hear
Well,
a second.
If we refer to finance, we might as well deny it right now.
Right.
Table it, we can take it up
Table
at a special.
Make a motion to table it.
So first was a motion to send to finance, it was seconded. There's now a motion to table it. Cannot discuss it anymore. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Of tabling it?
opposed?
Table.
Well,
For which one?
it was to table.
Okay.
Because it was the second motion.
Right.
Just making sure.
No, good question. So all those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 16 has been tabled. Back to,
President?
yeah, Councilor Bartley.
Point of order, I said it last night, I heard what the finance chair said. I hope that if we do have a special meeting, it is not on the night of the budget.
Yep.
I just think that that's the wrong night to have this discussion. I hope we can do it on another night. Thank you.
Next is 10A. This is the committee, so there was no public safety. This is public service. This is a point for the Council on Aging.
Can we
Margaret,
do, with the chair of public service permission, 10A through F as a package, and then we could do a brief discussion of
Second.
each along the way?
the motion is to suspend the rules, take up A, B, C, D, E, and F as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
can I make an amendment that it's actually A, C, and D as a package? Because I have to abstain from B and F.
So you want A, C, D, and E. You're abstaining from B and F. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Because you said you skipped D, just making
Yep.
sure. Okay. So is there a second to that?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also, A, C, D, and E, Council on Aging, skipping B. C is Council on Aging, D is Council on Aging, E is for the Planning Board, F is for the Housing Authority. Under discussion, so F, we're keeping out, sorry. So we're stopping there. So A, C, D, and E is for Council on Aging and the Planning Board. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, we had an excellent meeting. These fine people came down. Once again, I applaud Mayor Morris for putting up some good people for these appointments. The first one, Margaret Lemire, she worked at Providence Hospital for 10 years. There's no stipend on this Council on Aging Board. She was the nurse at the Council on Aging for about 37 years. So she knows this place like the back of her hand. She's excited to get working on this board because she does know this board like the back of her hand. The next one, Mr. Albino.
No.
No, you're on C now.
C.
Oh, C, I'm sorry.
Len.
Right.
Roulette.
Mr. Brulette, Council on Aging, this also has no stipend. He went to Dean Technical, 4 years in the Navy, many years working at Hamilton Standard, coaches track for South Hadley. He's been working at the YMCA. If any person that goes to the YMCA, don't laugh, but I do every day. I see him there every day, and he always has a big smile on his face.
Selling beer?
Yeah. He's a person that's been interested in Council on Aging for a long time. He has some big issues that he wants to take care of, such as parking, snow removal. He's been going to meetings for about a year or so. So BC and so D?
D.
All right, so we have Mr. Wayne Kling, 20-plus years as a plant engineer. He also has 12 years at Smith & Wilson, 2 years at the Sealdale Corporation in Holyoke. He is a person that's very interested in the Council on Aging as well. He too has many significant areas that he wants to work with, including, he also said, the snow removal. He's been going to meetings for about a year or so. Moving along, now we have Miss Kate Kruckmeyer. She has one heck of a good resume. She has a bachelor's from Brown. She has a PhD. She's been around Holyoke for a long time now. She's been, she wants to be a part of the planning board, and I think this is going to be a fantastic addition. And I think those are the ones we can vote on.
Yep. Any further discussion on A, C, D, and E? If not, motion is to confirm the appointments. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now it's on to B and F as a package, correct? That's how we want to do it?
Sure.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? B is for Hedict, and F is for the Housing Authority, Miriam and Antonio.
I'm
Counselor-
abstaining from these.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Counselor Leahy? under
Yes, thank
discussion.
you. So Mr. Albino, he's very interested in joining the HEDIC board. He came, I believe he's been 2 years in the city of Holyoke, worked for the Holyoke Public Schools. He was a professor in Puerto Rico. He also has taught in the Illinois Tech School in Chicago. Unfortunately, the hurricane drove him away from Puerto Rico, which is very unfortunate. He gave a very excellent interview. Once again, another great appointment by the good mayor. Moving along. I could read all these notes the night of the meeting. It gets a little bit more difficult. All right, so now we are in item number 10F. No stranger to any of us. A very nice person. Miriam is going to be on the Holyoke Housing Authority. She's coordinator of the multicultural programs at Holyoke Community College. Extensive amount of time there, 18 years. She talked about transitional housing, how it was important to her as a child. Councilor McGivern talked at great length about how the transitional housing started with the vets coming back and staying at one of these places for transitional housing, and then moving on to other housing. She too, once again, perfect pick by the good mayor, and that's it.
Any other discussion? None. Motion is to confirm B and F. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? On to, there is no DGNR, no charter and rules, no joint committee. On to motions, orders, and resolutions. There was a request, Councilor Sutton, you had something?
Yep. It's a late file, but I'm not sure which number it's regarding a pilots with Holyoke Gas and Electric.
Motion is to suspend rules, go out of order to late file F. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? From Councilor Sullivan, in order that the city of Holyoke and the Holyoke Gas and Electric negotiate a new pilot agreement. The current payment in lieu of taxes agreement has not been revised in over 10 years.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to receive and adopt and send a copy to the mayor and the manager of the gas and electric. The reason I wanted to get
Hold on. So wait, this is going to be a motion to suspend the rules, take up final action tonight? there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Under discussion, Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, so this is one I wanted to get out in front of everybody tonight, and it would be a key piece to our discussion this next week when we get into budget cuts, so I wanted to get everybody aware of it. The pilot we have, the city has with Holyoke Gas and Electric hasn't been looked at in over 10 years. So I had a conversation with the manager of the gas and electric. He's not only receptive to entering discussions with the city about updating it, but also he has some other ideas regarding extending some payments that we're making, having a longer term on them as part of this also regarding upgrades that were done to light fixtures. So I wanted to get this out in front of everybody so they weren't hearing about it for the first time when we get into the budget cuts, but also to get the ball rolling. If it got sent to committee, and then we had to wait till August or so to forward it to the mayor and stuff. This gives both the gas and electric and the mayor a couple of months head start on getting this underway.
So motion is to receive, adopt, and send to HG&E and a copy to the mayor?
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 14, motions, orders, and resolutions. Motion from Councilor McGivern.
Make a motion to receive, pass the first reading for adoption.
Motions to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. This is from lieutenants, $2,583.22 to injured on duty. Our discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Just the accounting move that we make just about every meeting now for for employees who were injured on duty, sometimes a short period of time, sometimes longer, and the money just goes into another account to keep track of their salary, but not actually not providing the direct service because of the injury.
And it's one person. So motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
With your vote, you approve the transfer. Item 15, from free cash, $68,000 to professional services and special counsel.
Make a motion to receive, pass the first reading
Motion
for
is to
adoption.
receive, adopt, pass first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Make a motion to send to finance?
Motion is to send to finance. It was seconded. Under discussion.
Under discussion, Mr. President, the reason I asked to pass the first reading, this is a replacement order. The City Council has already adopted the intent of where this money is going into. That is the professional services for special counsel out of the law department. We've been, due diligence has been taking place where we've been briefed as to what the bills are. These bills are due. They're actually now overdue. The reason it's a replacement order is when we adopted it, the source of the money was not free cash, but it was a line item in the Treasurer's Department that a number of questions were asked, and a number of, I can't even remember the line item because I never even heard of it, to be honest with you, before. But it's, Danny, can you whisper in my ear what it originally was?
Motion to suspend rules, allow the auditor to answer
Second.
questions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
So the line that it originally was taken out of was a certification line for bands and bonds that was I want to say there was an accounting error and the money was not put in the correct bond fund. So therefore, it looked like there was a large credit of about $100,000 in the certification line, which was not correct because it belonged to the tennis court bond.
The auditor, this happened before Tanya was auditor and the treasurer, although they originally thought that it was available, recognized it wasn't available, and did the correct thing and didn't, even though we voted on it, did not try to use the monies. So this is a replacement for the $68,000 to pay bills that are way overdue for outside attorneys. I'm asking, that we adopt it to pay the bills that we owe.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just under discussion. First of all, the money coming out of a bond, I cannot believe that this happens again and again. We passed the amendment. I'm just going to wait for the auditor to hear this. I'm just going to wait for the auditor to
I'm
finish.
sorry.
That's okay. You're not obligated. I'm going to hold off till you're ready. We passed an order, now it's an ordinance, that we don't allow funds in a bond to be transferred for something other than the bond unless it comes through city council. So in this case, we had no money there. It should have gone, it wasn't even a legal transfer. Now we've got something else where we have a motion, order, and resolution, and we're here on the floor doing something we don't, I mean, suspending our rules. I guess we have to do that now, but generally, these motions, orders, and resolutions go to finance. Last night, the finance chair did something, whether or not it happened before, that's not even relevant, Mr. President. It is a clear-cut violation of city council rules, putting things on a public agenda that were never transferred through this body. The finance chair, they're all dated. The Finance Committee meeting is June 17th, so the public is aware of this. We had orders before us dated June 18th. Completely made it up out of thin air. Now, whether this happened before in his memory, great. Well, that's the first time in my 7.5 years this ever happened. Just bought a whole cloth, took an order, not before us, threw it on an agenda, and had an open meeting discussion, and says, with a straight face, this doesn't violate open meeting law. With a straight face. What a joke. Mr. President, all of these orders are completely out of order. They ought to be sent to committee, every single one of them.
All right, you have
Thank you.
made your point. Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was not discussed last night. This is $68,000 that was discussed at a previous meeting in previous executive sessions to understand which bills that are owed, which attorneys that need to be paid, and for which lawsuits that they were working on. It has nothing to do with last night. The free cash is free cash. It's available. Going into this account to pay bills that are overdue the first time we voted on this is the right thing to do. If we put it in the Finance Committee meeting, this will die in 2 weeks. That means we won't see any free cash to September or October. Those bills won't get paid to sometime halfway through next year. That is why we're discussing it this evening. This happens every year in terms of shoring up the current fiscal year as we're preparing to adopt a budget for the next fiscal year. If I overstepped and tried to do something that made, in my mind, a little common sense, to discuss and prepare the City Council for votes that could take place this evening, I apologize, Mr. President. And if you'd like me to resign as Chairman of Finance, I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Nope.
But I'm not going to take this nonsense anymore because I'm sick of the bullying, I'm sick of being singled out, and it's not going to happen without me saying something.
So let's go over procedure. As discussed last night in Finance, we looked at it, as we said, with regards to, and it'll be, I do believe there are items 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. They're on there in order to try and discuss the health insurance issue. As we know, they are dated for tonight, but they're on last night's meeting. I did bring that up and said procedurally, we really can't act on them or discuss them. I understood the content or the intent of trying to have us better understand all the health insurance issues, not just the one we passed, which was $76,000, I believe it was. So therefore, the motion was to adjourn. We didn't even debate them. So the issue, although wasn't correct, the intent I said was fine. Now for tonight, we've done this 1,000 times. They're towards the end of the year. They come in last minute. I've always asked departments not to do it. As chair, I've sent some to the committee or they died. It is the will of the body to take up items on the last meeting, if they need to be paid, and apply them. The $68,000 is not new to us. It is for the fees from the attorneys for the settlement with the schools. As we all know, we paid off the settlement, but we haven't paid the attorney's fees yet. We caught the issue of where the money was coming from and said it was incorrect. They now have come back with free cash, which is a correct account that you can pay from. So that is the update. That's where we stand. So the motion was to send to finance. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
I believe those have it, but I'm in doubt. How many want to send it to finance? Please raise your hand. Do not have it, so back to the original motion, which was to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Ayes have it.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for free cash of $68,000 to
Can I just
special
make a
counsel.
comment?
Yeah,
President.
Council Murphy.
We're not gonna pay our Holyoke
Just,
guys.
I just would like to make one comment on this, and it's related to a lot of other things. I mean, and I'm hoping that whoever is here next year is not going through this, because this may be a tradition. First of all, that, if I recall, we talked about this particular payment for the professional services about 2 months ago, and it could have been resolved a long time ago if everybody worked together and got their things. I mean, we've got 2 or 3 different options out here. And the same thing with some of the other things that have happened with the library. We've got to get where we are effective and efficient in terms of what we're doing. And this is another example of not being a team working on getting the solution. I'm going to vote for it because I think we got to pay people that have worked and have earned their money. Hopefully, they've done a good job. But we shouldn't have to be doing this now. And there's a lot of other things to me that we shouldn't have to be doing, including all the medical insurance and things along. Those things should not be coming up as they're coming up. I mean, that's poor management.
Councilor Sullivan.
Can we suspend the rules for a question for legal?
Second.
Yeah. Motion to suspend the rules, allow legal to speak. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
So, Crystal, if I recall, these were not just for the settlement of the school issue. There were several other invoices for other litigations as well?
It's my recollection this was for the legal bills. We split it out of the litigation settlement. It was all lumped into one, and we split the legal bills separate.
But we never saw an itemized breakdown of what the different bills were, what the different invoices were. Some of these were not for the school issue. Is that correct?
I don't believe so. I think the settlement and the legal fees were all lumped into one, and then we had the auditor split it.
Okay.
Under suspension of the rules, do you want to have the auditor speak to?
Well, she's already under suspension. She was when we started. Do you have a question for the auditor?
Same question.
All right, so if you can come back up. She's still under suspension of the rules.
The solicitor is correct. It was all lumped together in one. It was all for the same claim, and we had to separate it because they paid whatever else out of stabilization. They paid $450 out of stabilization, and that was the balance, and it was all for that settlement claim, litigation expenses, including settlement.
Okay. Councilor McGivern.
Municipal budget is supposed to be for 12 months. A special counsel line item is supposed to allow a department that needs to hire outside consulting attorneys from time to time for reasons that I think we all know. We're not always going to agree on what the particular case is and the outcome of the particular case that these attorneys performed, but we have to recognize that it's the mayor who hires and oversees the law department. It's the city solicitor who decides what expertise is needed when the staff itself cannot handle certain types of cases. And I think and I'll point out a number of different counselors and sitting here between Councilor Leahy, yourself, Councilor McGee, over the years, Councilor Breslin, Councilor Sullivan, who have talked about, let's look at these bills as they come in. so that we do as much in-house as possible. The choice of deciding when it's out of house is the city solicitor with the mayor's input. The choice of not going with a 12-month budget is the city council. It's a bill that is due. We all work. After we work, our payday comes, we expect to get paid. This city of Holyoke should pay its bills. It's legitimate to transfer from free cash. The bills are legitimate. Think of it if you weren't getting paid your next payday because someone decided they didn't like the issue that was in front of them.
Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be supporting this tonight because I do know it's for. We've had several meetings on this, but I do want to give a little history. And the reason why I do like to cut special counsel from the budget every year, it's the only way it gives the city council, all of us here, checks and balances. If we went ahead and allowed $400,000 to be in that line item, $400,000 could be withdrawn from that line item day one without the city council. This keeps us in the loop of what's going on strategically in the law department. I think it's a good thing. I'll continue asking for it. I'll continue voting for it. And I do like to know what's going on in the city. And Crystal has informed us, and I'm going to vote for this tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Bresnahan.
I'm all set, thanks.
All set?
One more.
What?
Yep.
Councilor Bartley and then Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, I agree, a bill should be paid. I haven't seen the legal bill. Mr. President, have you seen the legal bill?
Yes, actually, when they sent us the memo,
I haven't
incorporated
seen
in there was the bill. Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, and to be perfectly clear on this, the reason I want to see the bills is it's nothing to do particularly with the school case. I want to be absolutely certain that nothing is being paid out for any work done on the settlement on the Essex House collapse, all right? And what's going on with the insurance company, I don't feel anything's deserved there. I've made that point several times. I don't feel it's being handled by outside counsel properly, all right? Regardless of the mayor's opinion, regardless of the city solicitor's opinion, that is my opinion.
All right, so with that, motion was on passing the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the $68,000 transfer.
Bresnahan?
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
10 yeas, 3 nays.
With your vote, you approved the transfer. 16 was tabled.
Mr. President, make a motion to group a number of items together, suspend the rules.
And do
Motion
abbreviated
would be to
reading.
take up 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28.
You
Councilor
read my
McGivern?
mind.
Second.
All those in favor?
For purpose of discussion, I'm going to make a motion to pass the first reading.
So motion is to receive, adopt, pass first reading under discussion. Councilor McGivern.
I stated earlier when we passed the amount of money into the medical insurance line item, the reasons for passing the money, the need for passing money into a line item that the city is not properly funded over a number of years. In the auditor, and I'm going to stop here and make a comment, and I want to make it a positive comment. Our first term auditor has done an incredible job of managing the city's finances in her initial term as she's learning the job itself with very little people to turn to. Our new auditor has taken it upon herself to work with department heads, as you did to prior auditors. As chairman of finance, Mr. President, I talked with her and explained to her what needed to be done at the end of the year. And when you look at this agenda this evening as compared to prior years, there's really only two surprises if you group these next 11 items together. And this wasn't a surprise. This was looking for money to reduce that deficit so that DOR can see the city is doing what it can to break that deficit within a line item that for more than 1 year prior to the current auditor's term with the city, for more than 1 year has been a problem. And I want to say this too, because I don't saying that there's mismanagement going on as much as there's new management within this city. When Damian Cody was with us the other night, I looked at him and said, "You're one of the senior department heads." And I think he's been building the department now for less than 5 years. We have new people in the law department. We have new people in the auditor's position. We have new people every time you turn around. There's a lot of new department heads who are working and learning the job as they go. And when it comes to finances, we all know that the auditor is the key position. But when you come from the private sector into the public sector, you may be a wonderful accountant, which I think Tanya is, but you need to change and you need to learn what the municipal budget is about. There's only one employee in this city that understands munis, and that's Katie Jakowski. And she is a go-to person, and that to me is what management is about, because these people work together between the assessors, the auditor, the tax collector, the treasurer, to work with all department heads so that they understand. Tanya has identified over the past several weeks surpluses in each of these line items. I don't know if they're controversial. I suggest that if we're going to bridge the gap of that $643,000, this would be a big step. I'm asking that we pass the first reading and that we consider adopting these transfers this evening so that we can, one, do what we're supposed to do as a city and pay for our employees, our portion of the employees' health insurance, and two, make sure that DOR knows that we are doing the correct thing when it comes to our finances.
All right. Prior to calling another one, let me just make sure the public knows. 17 is $15,000 from aid to mayor to medical insurance. No, we determined last night in the meeting, medical insurance and health insurance are interchangeable. So when I read them, just understand that it's one and the same. They're just being used differently. So 18 is from mayor extra clerical, $7,600 to medical insurance. Land court filing is number 19, $12,174 to medical insurance. 20 is planning development specialist, $12,500 to medical insurance. 22, $180,000 from pay firefighters to medical insurance. 23 is pay wire inspector, $11,095 to medical insurance. 24 is inspections electrical, $35,000 to medical insurance. 25 is systems hardware, $30,000 to medical insurance. 26 is pay floating clerk, $12,894 to health insurance. 27 is pay health insurance services, council on aging, $22,000 to medical insurance. 28 is council on aging, again, $4,000 to medical insurance. Those are all of them. Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I mean, I have a couple concerns. I mean, we have to be mindful of this when we're doing the budgets. If we have this kind of money floating around in many of these departments, and they should be cut. It's unfortunate that we're still down 8 firefighters and we're transferring money out of that budget. So much for public safety. It's unfortunate, and just so people know that the money owed to the auxiliary police is into the $40,000. It's not like a couple grand. I had the pleasure of speaking with them outside. Some of these guys are owed upwards of $20,000 because they're not getting paid. You know, when you run a budget, medical insurance is an issue that you have to deal with. So for anyone that, you know, is familiar with running budgets, medical insurance is something that you have to do with, or health insurance, whatever. You have to run with. It's unbelievable that this is the planning that we have, where we're basically back against the wall and we have to make this money float into medical or health insurance, where that something wasn't planned out, and this is no reflection upon the auditor. You know, you're doing a great job. It's not about that. But there's got to be a better way to do this type of stuff. I mean, I'm getting emails and texts from the firefighters union talking about this $180,000, and we're down 8 guys, and we blacked out a truck. So I hope everyone keeps this agenda, because it's the same mantra every time we get to the agenda. You got the folks that are going to cut the budget, and you got the folks that aren't going to cut the budget. So I'm hoping that we see that, you know, $23,000 out of the mayor's office. I mean, it's absolutely disheartening. We're talking about getting a chief inspector, and we're cutting $50,000 out of that line item, or not particularly for him, but it just anybody that looking at this would just be like, what are you, we're transferring hundreds of thousands of dollars to medical, nobody planned about this, nobody knew about this? Medical rates go up. I do a budget. If I did this in my real job, I'd be looking for a job, let me tell you, because this is just completely unacceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, first of all, I just wanna, I wanna compliment the finance chair, as I usually do, he always runs a good meeting, so his meeting last night was as good as always. Imagine, Mr. President, if I made a motion next Tuesday to cut line item 51105 from the fire department. Imagine that. You know what, I would get screamed at. These are contractually obligated expenses. You cannot possibly do that. How dare you? Oh, geez, as it turns out, Mr. President, we can do it. The mayor can do it. I mean, these are, and cuts to, I mean, we know how it's gonna go, Mr. President. We'll make motions next week, and the same councilors are gonna second them, the same councilors are gonna vote no, and the same councilors are not gonna cut any parts of the budget. And yet, these same councilors, who next week will say no to every budget cut, will in fact vote yes to every budget cut that they're making tonight. There's these exact same councilors that vote no to everything, and when it comes to cutting the budget, are going to do that exact same thing tonight. You know, the hypocrisy is amazing. You know, they can live with themselves, but I'm going to point it out next week in a professional way. We obey our rules, but it's going to happen again. So here we go. We're going to cut the firefighter budget $180,000 to shore up something that should have been handled elsewhere. Which is why we tried not to be cruel, to try to build up the free cash. I said that last night. I said it numerous times. I heard what we said earlier. Yes, these would be legitimate transfers so you could get them from free cash. We're not. We're cutting major parts of major departments. I don't think that's the right way to run a government. Consequently, I'm going to vote no on all of these.
Counselor Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Buckle your seatbelts, folks, because turn to page 48 and look at line that we're talking about under health insurance. So it was budgeted at $9.4 million, which was about $1 million short. It's budgeted in the budget in front of us for $10.3 million. Is there anybody who thinks the cost is going to be the same next year as it was this year? The auditor was seeking $12.5 million. So to me, this looks like the same old, same old. The numbers are there, the people are crunching the numbers, they're saying, budget, give us room. We don't know how the new system is going to work. We don't know how many of these deductibles we're going to have to match. It's a moving target, as we've heard, but this is budgeted on the lowest end possible. So just be prepared. And this is why I keep saying, when we're talking about bonding for more, adding more debt, we have our financial advisors coming in and talking to us to say, yes, you can do this. Yes, this is the only way you can do this. Cinder McNerney didn't know we already approved over $20 million of more debt when she came and talked to us about taking out, doing a debt exclusion override. But this budget shows us all that nothing has changed. There is no plan here. There is no setting aside of any money here. We're taxing everybody to the max. And another important fact we need to understand before next Tuesday is what the valuation of the mall is when they get done talking to the assessor. Because we may be, for all we know, another $1 million in the hole on the taxes. And that's going to get shared on the taxpayers. So we will all share in that. So this budget is scary. We're here now angsting because this is coming in late. I applaud the auditor. I think she has been doing an amazing amount of work. I think it's too bad she's had to be doing this level of detail and this level of digging. But one of the reasons I voted for the $68,000 is one of the pleas she made to us is don't leave the city in debt at the end of the year because it's going to put us in a bad light with DOR. So I'm holding my nose, I'm taking all these votes because yes, it's late, and to Councilor Murphy's point, we could have done at least the $68,000 a lot different earlier on, but what's been discovered in the last 3 weeks, to use an overused phrase, is what it is. So I will support it from the point of view of what I think our auditor is trying to accomplish. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern?
Each item before us, each surplus that has been identified, has a story within itself. I don't have all the stories. The firefighter's story, we have had a number of explanations given to us. And I know I know Councilor McGee has a story that I'm sure he'll share with us, because it is upsetting with that one line item itself. Nothing to do with the auditor, nothing to do with the current auditor, but the fact that the stories we've been given about firefighters, why there's a surplus in that line item, it changes every time we have a chief, a commissioner, someone come before us and talk to us about the surplus, a former auditor, and so on. I don't have the explanation, but what I do know is this is not a budget cut. This is a budget transfer. Budgets are meant to be adjusted during the course of the year. Budgets are estimated revenue. In the beginning of the year, you don't know if you're going to get all the revenue. Budgets are estimated expenses. When there's a vacancy within a position, when there's something that's not used, that money becomes a surplus. Every dollar being transferred here, there's 12 days left in the fiscal year. Every dollar here becomes free cash in 12 days. The bill doesn't go away. Okay? So I don't care. If you want to vote and pay for it this evening to tell the DOR we're doing the right thing, that's fine. If you don't want to vote, it's just going to be a free cash transfer in about 6 months from now. But let's call it what it is. It's not a budget cut. It's a budget transfer. If you have questions about where some of the money's coming from, why it's surplus, that's legitimate. But don't compare what we're doing next week to what we're doing in the middle of the year. At the end of the year, we're massaging the budget, which is what the city needs, every city needs to do, and what we need to do. And sometimes the faith we have to have with department heads and the auditor is what they're telling us to the best of their ability is the truth and correct and allowable. Vote no, but don't call it a budget cut. It's a budget transfer. It becomes free cash if we don't do it this evening.
Anyone further? Councilor Lisi?
If we could pull out 23, 24, and 26, I think that I should abstain from those.
Okay, so 23, 24, and 26.
Yeah.
You're going to abstain, okay. We'll get to that in a second. Right now, it's just bringing them all up because they're all applying to health insurance or medical insurance, same thing. And then we'll...
You're not going to vote on them as a package?
Well, no, it was just for discussion first. And then we said we'll go into if you want to go on a package or if you want to piece it apart. So those we're definitely going to pull out. Anyone further? For me, I'd like 22 to be voted on separately. That is the fire department. As Councilor McGivern pointed out, I do have an issue with this one. Beginning of the budget process, not the last budget process, we were just here last year. We were told specifically that no line item for the fire department could be cut, and that even with the SAFER grant, go back to the tape. I did. You cannot cut anything. They are down to the bare bones. They took out $87,000 to pay for the mistake on the accounting mistake they did. And they said, well, we put that in there. We just didn't tell you about it, so we're taking it out to pay for that accounting mistake. And they took out another $87,000 from the same line item. Now they're taking $180,000. Grand total, $354,000. Back to the budget process. Do not touch a nickel. This isn't a nickel. It's $354,000. So for me, I'll vote on every single one of them because the DOR did give us that letter that said, get caught up on this account because you'll be in trouble. But I want answers to this line item. How can it be $354,000 over? And every time they've come to finance, to a budget hearing, it really was a different story, depending on the person sitting across from us. That is not acceptable. It's not pointing fingers else, but we really should have an answer to why $354,000 has several different answers to it. That I have a serious problem with on 22 only. The rest are traditional accounting problems. Not accounting problems, but accounting movers. Aide to the mayor left, so the position's open for a while. You have extra money. You can shift it. Those are standard. So here we can go. We're at 17. Would you like to take up any as a package? I'll defer to the chair. No, 23, 24, and 26, we have to take out for an abstain, so for someone to abstain. So we can take up 17, 18, 19, 20 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion would be to receive, adopt, pass the first reading on 17, 18, 19, and 20.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is to pass the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for $15,000 from mayor's aid, extra clerical, $7,600, land court, $12,174, and $12,500 from planning development specialist, all to insurance. Clerk will call the roll.
Bresnahan?
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
11 yeas, 2 nays.
With your vote, you approve 17, 18, 19, and 20. 22 is $180,000 from firefighters to insurance. Motion would be to receive and adopt.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Actually, receive, adopt,
Aye,
pass
first.
first reading, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion would be to
Second.
pass the second reading. Clerk will call it. If you vote yes, you're voting to approve this. I will not be voting for it. I'd rather have information on it.
Bresnahan?
No.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Nope.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
10 yeas, 3 nays.
Your vote, you approved it. 23, 24, and 25, we can take up as a package. The
Better 23, 24, and 26.
23, 24, and 26, take up as a package.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Motion be receive, adopt, and pass the first reading.
Good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
23 is $11,095 from inspector, $35,000 from electrical to medical, and floating clerk, $12,894. Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for it with one abstention.
Bresnahan?
No.
Leahy?
Abstain.
2 abstains.
2 abstentions.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi? Abstain. McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
9 yeas, 2 nays, 2 abstains.
Your vote, you approve those. Back to 25. From hardware or systems hardware, 30,000 to insurance. 27 is 22,000 from Council on Aging to insurance. And Council on Aging, 4,000 to insurance. Motion is take those up as a package.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to receive, adopt, and pass the second reading?
Motion is
Second.
passed. The second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for those last 3.
Bresnahan?
Nope.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
No.
11 yeas, 2 nays.
With your vote, you approve those. We're now down to 29, if I've done everything correctly. And this is,
Mr. President, make a motion to receive item 29 and item We already did 30, right?
Did 30.
Item 29, refer to Committee on Finance.
Second.
29
Talked
to
with the department head, we can bring this into next year as long as we get it done by August.
29 is to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to 31.
Mr. President, I'm going to abstain from this because the source of this is the officer of the Commissioner of Probation, which is the department I work for.
All right, so this is a motion, order that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accept the Juvenile Adult Criminal Justice Grant, which we did take up last night for discussion in committee. This is a grant from the Massachusetts Probation Service Office of Commissioners of Probation in the amount of $50,000, which is awarded to the city, and there is no match.
Receive,
I do
adopt.
believe
Second.
Councilor Lee has notes on it too. So motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading under discussion. Councilor Lee.
Yeah, so thank you. So Sergeant Hart was here last night, and he went over the numbers. It's a grant from the Office of Probation. As Councilor McGivern said, juvenile diversion. This grant for the last 2 years was about $3,900, I think $3,750. This year, with the due diligence of Sergeant Hart and his team there, the city's receiving $50,000. The majority of that's going to the Boys and Girls Club, which is $22,000. Different programs operate out of that line item. Young Marines, they have a teen membership drive and a program, basketball leagues, which also pays for the refs, and also education component of it in uniforms, and also different supplies for the Boys and Girls Club. Also, $20,000 goes to the Holyoke Safe Initiative, and what that does, many other programs filter through there. The biggest program that they have is a summer basketball league that 240 children participated in last year, which is huge. And $8,000 of the 50 goes to the Holyoke Police Department. Basically, there's I believe Sergeant Hart said he's the main one. There's a Holyoke police officer dedicated to each one of these events, which I think is a good thing. As Councilor Bartley and I had filed an order, they will provide a report at the conclusion of the said grant, which I'm looking forward to seeing. This was just handed to the city about a week ago. It is time sensitive. It has to be approved by the end of this month, the fiscal year. And that's pretty much it.
Any further discussion? Motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the grant.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern? Oh, he's abstained. Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
11, 12 yeas, 1 abstain.
Your vote, you approve the grant. 32, order from Councilor McGee that the DPW Forestry trim the branches at 6 Taylor Street, the tree at 6 Taylor Street. Motion would be to receive, adopt, send to
Send
forestry.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 36, the rule, that Rule 1 of the City Council be suspended for the purposes of the City Council going on summer recess, and that the July 2nd, July 16th, and August 20th, 2019.
Take a motion to deny. I love this place.
I'll second that.
Sorry, Brenna.
Well, the motion was to deny. You seconded. All those in
To
favor?
adopt.
Oh, motion to adopt. They changed it. So motion is to receive and adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 37, that the DPW remove the trash bin at the median at the entrance of the mall.
Motion to receive, adopt, and send to DPW.
Motion is receive,
Second.
adopt, send to DPW.
Take
All
a
those-
friendly
I
amendment
would, go.
Oh, hold on. Counselor Sullivan.
to add the one by Lynch School to that also.
Yes.
So the motion is to
Yes.
DPW remove the trash bin from the median at the mall and by Lynch.
Northampton Street and East Hampton
Could I-
Mountain Road.
Could I just speak to it just briefly?
Counselor Bacon first.
I just wanted to say that I've been getting some calls on it, and when I've been driving by there myself, It's so busy there, I think it's very hard for DPW to access it and empty it. It's overflowing. There's more trash on the ground now than there was before it was there. So it's just not helping.
Counselor
Thank you.
Sullivan?
There's no problem with it overflowing. The thing I've noticed, and I hope other people are noticing too, we've gotten the signs up around town. I've spent quite a deal looking, watching what's going on. Not only has the panhandling traffic there decreased dramatically, but also the same applies there. That's a bad place, a bad location to have a trash receptacle. And also, anybody getting off of 91, that's the first thing they see when they come into town.
So you have a motion to amend 37 to add the one by
And I'll
Lynch School?
second that.
And that was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So motion is to receive, adopt, and send to DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 38 is from Councilor Valentin, a handicap sign be placed at 131 Beach Street. Ordinance.
Copy to Commission on Disabilities.
On disability. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 39 is from Councilor Bartley.
Yes,
Uh,
to
Hoyoke
ordinance.
Hoyoke Ordinance, Section
Second.
86-211 be amended. To ordinance, all those in favor?
Aye.
40 from Council Bartley, City Council support noticing all property owners that open burning is not allowed anywhere in the city, referred to the mayor and post on the website for
Receive and
HG&E.
Second.
So receive, adopt, referred to mayor, the website, HG&E, in order to ask them to alert the taxpayer in the next invoice. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 41 from Councilor Bartley, that the council accept the honor and sacrifice statement describing the U.S. flag now hanging at the HPD roll call room and refer a copy to the police chief and the mayor.
Can I be added to that, please?
Adding Councilor Bacon,
Me too, please.
Councilor Tallman, Councilor Breslin, you said? Councilor Leahy?
Motion just to receive and adopt, Mr.
Motion
President.
is to
Second.
receive and adopt and send to the appropriate departments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
42 from Councilor Leahy, that the Mass DOT cut back all the brush from Rotary US 202 North.
Yeah, receive, adopt, send to the Mass DOT District 2.
Motion
Second.
is to receive, adopt, send to Mass DOT
A
District.
copy to the DPW as well.
District 2, copy to DPW.
Mr. President.
Any
Yeah, just-
discussion yet?
Yeah, just a comment on that. I'm not sure if is that the one when you coming right off Hamden? Because they were doing it today. The state police were there and they were doing the rotary on the inside as you're coming around.
Constituent, got a couple of constituent concerns about this.
Right.
And if they get letters, they'll stay on top of it.
Okay, yeah, like I said, they were doing it today, so I'm not sure if that's the same, right, the rotary right there as you're coming around, coming down Hamden and going back up towards Lincoln. Well, I got a little bit of time, so.
On the motion.
All right, so motion is to receive, adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 43 from Council Leahy, that the DPW repaves Lennox Street and Park Slope.
Receive, adopt, send to the Department of Public Works.
Motion to receive, adopt, send to DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor 44 from Councilor Leahy, the Park and Rec refill the dog waste bags at each park, monitor these weekly. So motion be receive, adopt, send to DPW.
Yeah,
Is
the
it
copy of
parks
Parks and
or is it
Park, I thought.
or DPW?
Well, the Department of Public Works oversees the Park
Yeah.
Department, so I'd like to send a copy to both.
Okay, so receive, adopt, send to DPW, copy to Park.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 45.
Council President, you want to be added to this?
45 is that, from Council Leahy, that the DPW repaves Division Street and that Parallel Heritage State Park and the Hoyoke District Court.
Received, adopts, and do a copy to the Department of Public Works. And the reason I filed this is Council President kind of re-sparked my interest in the street. I look back and I filed this order in 2000, and once again in 2003. So it's been quite a while. So it's
Motion is receive, adopt, send to DPW. All those in favor? All those
Cobblestone
opposed?
there, or no?
Actually, I heard it, Council President. 46 from Councilor Leahy and Councilor Anderson Burgos, that the solar flashing crosswalk sign be installed at Beach and Carter Streets.
Receive, adopt, and send to Mr. McManus.
Motion is to receive, adopt, send to DPW.
And also the the alarm division of the fire department.
And the alarm division. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Maybe the alumni will give us some money for them?
Yeah.
Mr. President, can we just take 4748, and I have a late file that's the exact same thing about a handicap placard. It might be D. Just send them all to ordinance, I guess.
D. Motion to suspend the rules, take up 47, 48, and late file D. It is a handicap sign be placed in front of 372 Maple Street, handicap sign at 370 Maple Street, and a handicap sign at 3 Charles Street.
Can I? I'd like to
Counselor-
explain, so can I just explain that 47 may have to be removed? Because this person already has a parking sign. What happened is that she was the one who got all the paperwork done. Then somebody went and got a placard and took her parking. And I'm trying to check on the gentleman who actually is the one that went and took the parking now. And because they're not assigned based on placard, I have to find the gentleman, and I at least wanted to get it in.
So, to be clear, 47 is
Already-
handicap
she-
sign at 372. You want it to be removed, or you want it to be put one there?
Comply. She's been complied with.
Oh, okay.
The gentleman, I'm trying to get a second parking next to, like, maybe in the back of it or in the front of it, but at 370.
Okay.
But the gentleman, I need to find his name, and at least I wanted to put it in and make sure that he comes in and opens his own request, or so I can file an order, and, so I wanted to get the order before the recess is over.
Okay, so we'll send all of them to ordinance, and then we'll make sure we get all the information in ordinance to
Okay.
comply with everything. Is that good?
Thank you. Yep, but just making sure that you understand the 47 was complied already with, because she did her paperwork and she had done the process.
Yep.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, so 47, 48, and late file D to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
And ordinance. 49 from Counselor Lisi.
Receive, sent to ordinance.
Order that section
Second.
62-37 to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any others?
Must be more late files.
Late file A, it's like a communication.
Receive.
From Jesus Pereira, Veteran Services, a communication. Motion is to receive.
Second.
Looks like he's given information on the volunteer services program, so to
I think we should just,
public service, I think it was public service, yeah, public service.
I think we all got an email, too.
Email to.
All right, so motion is to receive.
All right.
All's in favor?
Aye.
B is from the Law Department regarding the timeline for a submission for a supplemental budget. Motion be receive. I think everyone's got a copy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct? Counselor Bacon, you have a
We
motion?
do have a copy, but as I read it, I didn't really get it, because as I was reading through the arguments, it seemed like we had to stay strictly to the timeline of the initial submission, and we couldn't add expenses, but then at the end of the opinion, it said we could do whatever we wanted. So I found it a confusing opinion. So I didn't know if our legal could clarify a little bit. It just seems contradictory to me
Good
as I was
recall.
trying to read it.
Well, motion would be to suspend the rules to take up
So moved.
item B for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? So motion to suspend the rules, allow legal to speak on the communication. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
So this is my life every day. The law is incredibly confusing and contradictory. So basically, there is a strict timeline. They repealed some language in the statutes. They specified certain language. So while a timeline needs to be followed, there's no penalty for not following it. So it's an itemized budget. The only part of the changes that matter, because most of it was clerical, or deletion, cuts from the budget. The line item for adding the position is the one that you should draw attention to. That, because it's an itemized budget, you can take it so that each line item is technically submitted separately, because if you don't vote on anything, it's assumed to be approved. So the addition of adding this position is a line item. You would have 45 days from that submission, or in the interest of efficiency, you could vote on the supplemental budget the way it's written, rather than taking up another meeting for the one line item, given that you have 45 days to vote.
So if I can just ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I understand the part about the 45 days after we receive the line item. What I'm not understanding is, I thought we had to have the budget before us by a date certain. We only had so many days then to act upon it. So if that budget has then changed, because now the total of the budget is different, doesn't that then make it a new budget?
It's so most, like I said, most of those changes were clerical, so they.
Well, I'm speaking specifically about the additional expenses.
So there weren't, the only additional change that would make any difference would be the addition of that new job, the new position, which you would have 45 days to vote on. So whether you do it as part of the budget or require him to do it as an appropriation in the new fiscal year.
After the budget.
You can do either or. So in the interest of efficiency, you can vote on it with the budget, or you can force it under the rules and make it an appropriation. There's really no penalty either way. I mean, it's how the council chooses to vote on it.
Thank you.
So motion is to receive, correct? All those in favor? All opposed? Last two, late file C is from Counselor Bartley, or that Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, Code of Ordinances,
DGR, please.
declare 19 West Glen Street to DGNR, you said?
Yes, please.
To DGNR, all those in favor?
Aye.
And G is from Counselor Sullivan, order to review and consider an amendment to the zoning ordinances related to corner lots, including section 2.0 definition.
Ordinance.
To ordinance, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And that's all I have. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed?